There's people that talk about a third of the world rotates through Benton County in some way, shape, or form, in drunkenness or relations or
Livestock. Yeah.
livestock. You never know. It's kind of wild.
Also, John Les, Iowa State.
I was in like 8th grade, and John would show up at Christmas and play basketball. And John is a freaking dude. He was just chiseled like nobody's business. Had a knee brace on. And when he wanted a rebound, it didn't matter who the shit was in his way. He was getting it, and it was going back up or going the other way. He was unbelievable athlete. Just can't believe that he didn't play at Iowa State. I heard he had a lot of coaching issues there, is what I have heard through the grapevine. But he was a man.
Oh yeah, I can just remember the notch on his nose from his helmet. Like
Laid down smoking it.
exactly. I was like, you're doing some serious football. That's happening. Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Tonight, we are excited to have the brothers, Jeff and Doug Buch. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Great to see you both.
Thanks for having us on.
It's fun. Excited to talk to you, gents. Been listening to you for quite some time. You've interviewed teammates that I've learned about my own teammates. You think you know a guy, then you hear him get interviewed on a podcast, you learn all new kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We just talked to Scott Davis, and I always thought Scott Davis was an East Coast guy. So I had this like thing in my head, and he's a Western Iowa guy. And I was like, wait, that just completely changed my perspective. And it's funny to dig into each person and where they're from and all these things. You're like, wait, I know this person well, but I don't know all this different stuff.
Especially when you're in your 20s, you don't share a bunch of stuff. There's not necessarily the most deep conversations.
I'm really struggling here, guys. Let's talk it out. Yeah, that's not happening.
Or you get together, and my mom would always be like, so how is Chris? What's going on with Chris and Jet? And I was like, I don't know. I think we said hi, and then we had some beer, and that was about it. Like, you don't really,
We're best friends. Yeah.
Get too deep. So it's kind of the way those relationships went. I think it'd be interesting to hear your guys' background. You're from Benton community, and then maybe dive into the recruiting part.
Yeah, I'll start. Grew up in Marshalltown, Iowa for a few years. Moved to Benton when I was in 4th grade. Ironically enough, our dad, Jim Buch, played and was a part of the first Benton football team, high school, where all the schools, Blairstown, Newhall, Atkins, Van Horn, all were separate schools, Keystone, all separate schools, and they all came together. And the first football team our dad was on, and they literally went, this is a football, to introduce those guys, and they had to show them how to put their pads on. It was like, and these guys were freshmen in high school. He was a freshman. And from there, one of the head coaches that over a few years was named Ron Donald. He was a head football coach, head track coach. And on his staff for about 3 years was a young guy out of Wartburg that just recently graduated from Wartburg. And his name was Reese Morgan. And so Reese Morgan was a part of some of the first football classes that came through Benton in the early 70s. And just think about how coaches change and things go on. Reese Morgan and Ron Donald and the other coaches were riding on the bus home after another loss. I think they went 3-5 again. And Ron Donald told everybody he was done being the head coach. And he said, Reese, you're going to be the next head coach. And Reese was like, I don't want to be the head coach. I just had a baby. I don't want to be a head coach. And the other coaches ganged up and said, nope, you're the head coach. That's how Reese got his start in head coaching at Benton Community.
What year is that?
I believe it was 1976 or 77. It was right in there. And the irony of how a guy said, I don't want to do it. I don't want this. And look at the level that man rose to and the people he coached along the way, the number of Division I football players, Outland Trophy winners, just shows you how outstanding of a coach he was. And so when I was in elementary school, 5th, 6th grade, all you wanted to do was play football for Reese. He was my PE teacher, gym teacher over at Keystone Elementary School in the early 80s. And all you wanted to do was just go play football for Reese Morgan. when the time came. And lo and behold, he was still there. I know there were several interviews he went on, but he went to Emmitsburg and learned from the great Dwayne Twait on the quick huddle. And he brought the quick huddle to Benton and became synonymous with Benton football. And then over the years, he just loved the fullback. And you want to know why Kirk Ferentz and Reese get along? I swear Reese's greatest games, greatest victories were 6-0, 12-6. We missed the PAT. We didn't have a kicker. We didn't have a Brian Hurley. We didn't have any of that. We couldn't have done anything. So you always went for 2, missed it most of the time. And so it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's all Reese cared about. And when I got up there, my sophomore year, we had a wonderful fullback and a good offensive line. And for us, average was 165 pounds, soaking wet. And I was tailback and I was shifty, and Reese didn't like that. I'd make people miss, and he would look around. You got to run somebody over to call it football. I was like, yeah, but he got tackled and I made him miss. Didn't like it. He was not a fan of that type of stuff. It just didn't jive with him until I went to a couple of camps. And the camp that got me going was after my junior year. And I was sitting in Kinnick, so I was going out. Camp was different. Like, you guys all had a crazy different recruiting experience than anything I did. Guys like me, we were sitting in the stands, and they would bring kids in from all over the country that they wanted to look at. That tape's hard to see. Back then, it was film, and some of it was still digital film. And it was hard to really see. You could just see if a kid was fast and sometimes physical. It was grainy. You couldn't see a lot. So they'd invite kids into a camp. And Reese had told them, I don't know if Doug's any good. I think he's all right. I don't know. And Reese wasn't bragging me up. He wasn't doing that. That's just not his way of going about it. And so I'm sitting in the stands. I'm sitting next to some other kid that I'd kind of gotten to know at a previous basketball camp of all things. We're sitting up at the top of the stands, and Bobby Elliott, former coach, is reading off names. And every once in a while, he'd say something. He goes, hey, how's the drive in from St. Louis? How's the drive in from Detroit? How's the drive in from Indianapolis? I get to the top, and he goes, Doug Buch. I go, here. And he always had his sunglasses on. He takes his sunglasses off, and he looks up, and he goes, I hear you're one hell of a football player. And everybody turned and looked like, whose ass do I got to kick to get the money that this guy, it was like, wait a minute, dude, you just put a bullseye on me. And the guy sitting next to me was like going, what'd you do to him? It was that pronounced. And by the end of the camp, it was pretty apparent I could play and get it done. And one of the guys that was there with me was Courtney Hawkins, DB for Michigan State, All-American. And by the end of it, him and I had just completely separated ourselves from pretty much everybody else. And he was better. But it was definitely him and I type of deal. And at the end of it, this was 1987. This was a long damn time ago. And nobody awarded scholarships then. They just didn't do it. And Bobby Elliott came up to me and just said, we're going to have our eye on you and do what you do. That was it. I never heard from Iowa again until the season was basically over in late October, early November is the first time. Now I was getting letters. I was getting letters from them, but I didn't get a whole lot. And then, man, as soon as the season was over, I think there was a rule you couldn't start recruiting until the season was over. The phone just started blowing up. And I had offers from Arizona State, obviously Iowa State, Iowa, Minnesota. The academies really were all over me too, especially the Air Force Academy. That was mostly because of Chad Hennings, who also went to Benton, was coached by Reese, Outland Trophy winner. So they were all over me, but I pretty much decided way early on I was too dumb to go there. So there was no way I was going to stay eligible at that place.
Actually, you know what I remember, Doug? You said they basically make you eat in repetition at the table. They were so structured. You were like, I don't want anything to do with that.
I can't take that. I got too many other things going on that I couldn't do that. But one of the highlights of the recruiting when you're getting recruited is Coach Fry, if he can make it to your high school. and Coach Morgan sitting in my one table one day and at the study hall in the middle of our cafeteria, and Coach Morgan comes up and he says, "Hey, I need you to move over to this table over here." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Just move over there." I'm like, "But I'm sitting with all the hot girls I want to be sitting with." But he's like, "No, go move over here. Just do it." I'm like, "All right." So I get up, move over, mad, sit down. And about 10 minutes later, Coach Fry and Coach McCarney come walking into the school, and you could have almost heard a pin drop. So this is during study hall. And they go walking down the hall, and a couple minutes before it's ending, Coach Fry comes up and shakes my hand. He's like, "Doug Weaver here." It's my bad, Hayden Fry. "Looking at your film. Due to NCAA regulations, I can't say a whole lot, but your film looked really good." And that was it. And McCarney shook my hand, and he walked out the front door, and the school emptied and went rushing to the windows and the doors. I mean, Coach Fry at that time, he was more powerful and more well-known than the governor.
Easily.
Oh yeah.
It was that big of a deal. A couple of our secretaries, one of them, Betty DeGraff, she goes running out in her high heels and just sprinting across, looking out the window. And then I took a couple of visits, Iowa State, and then Arizona State. Hard to turn down, but Arizona State was going through a huge coaching change. And
How did they come in the mix? That's an unusual school to recruit, middle Iowa, small town.
Our grandparents visited Arizona all the time, and I used to look at all their books and photo books, and I'm like, "Man, Arizona looks awesome."
Yeah.
And I
Got
started looking at schools, and I'm like, Arizona State. I didn't want to go. Tucson's just a little too hot, and then Arizona State was even better. So
Now, the story I remember, some of these I'm either making up in my head or I've embellished them over the years, but you went to the recruiting visit to Arizona State, and Brion, Nick, this was the quote Doug gave me.
I can imagine.
And I'm 9 years old at the time. He said, "The first girl I saw on campus was the hottest girl I've ever seen in my entire life. And then 5 minutes later, some girl hotter than her walked by." That was your direct quote.
and it just went on and on and on.
Like, oh, he's going there. He's going to Arizona State. I know how this guy's wired.
I was really interested in what was going on out there.
Yeah.
And then you tell me if I'm making this one up, but didn't McCarney chase you down when you got back from the visit or something?
So I landed at Cedar Rapids Airport it was like 7:30 at night, and I'm pulling out of the parking lot. Somebody was following me, and I knew it. And I'm driving along, and I see this car, and I'm weaving around a little traffic on the 4-lane, and I see this car just back and forth coming up on me, and it freaked me out. I thought, what in the hell is going on? And finally, this big Lincoln Town car comes pulling up next to me, and Dan McCarney holds up this sign and shines a flashlight on it and turns his dome light on, says, "Iowa Hawkeyes want Doug Buch." And what a legendary coaching that he did.
Wow.
Lots of recruiting.
And I actually drove home, and I had talked to my mom and dad, and my dad was like, "You do whatever you want. You're a grown man. Do whatever you want." And mom was like, "Do whatever you want. Go wherever you want to go."
Yeah.
But I'm like, "Oh, shit." Mom and dad didn't have a lot of money then because they still had two boys at home and farming and everything. So I was like, they're going to have a hard time getting down to ever see me. And there was a lot of turmoil at Arizona State that they had no coaching staff. There were shreds of bodies and didn't know what they were doing, which is how I even got on their radar. But I ended up just, who am I kidding? If Iowa wants me this bad, it's premier program in the Midwest and the state. If Iowa wants me to play there, who am I to say no to them?
Can I add to just what the Coach Fry mystique?
Oh, Coach Fry was
Again, I have more of an appreciation of this now maybe than I ever even have, because now I have almost 7 and 9-year-old boys, and like the world through the wonderment of their eyes, if I could wax poetic like that. And but also they're not the smartest human beings yet. Like, you're still learning things when you're that age. And I didn't understand a lot of it, like what was happening when Doug was getting recruited. But I knew Hayden Fry was a big deal. Like, that much I knew. 1985 happened when I was super young. I don't remember the 1985 Michigan-Iowa game, but I had heard about it. I knew that Coach Fry was a big deal. Then he came to our house, like on the recruiting visit, and we sat all around our crappy farm wooden table with Coach McCarney, barely fit around the table. And I parked right next to Coach Fry. I was like, I want to be next to this famous person. And when he sat down, his pants rode up a little bit on his cowboy boots. And he had black cowboy boots with the Rose Bowl insignia with the Tiger Hawk on it. And I just stared at those boots. Being 8 years old, I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then we're all excited. Like, shout out to our brother Darren, our middle brother. He's excited. Like, it's like getting visited by the president. And then there's the last one. I hope people get a kick out of it. But our mom, Kathy, shout out to Jim and Kathy. And she said, Hayden, would you like a drink? And he goes, yeah, shoot, I'll take something to wet my whistler. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But that was the coolest thing anybody has ever said. It was just all a surreal moment for me at my side of the table.
The phone rang during the visit, and of course, Mom goes and answers it, and all you hear is, yes, he's here. Yes, in our kitchen. He's sitting here right now.
And don't think for a second, we all love Coach Fry. God rest his soul. He loved that stuff too. That's when he's in his most comfortable situation.
Jeff, do you remember watching Doug play? Were you like in high school going to games and stuff?
Oh yeah. Our name wasn't established. I don't know how to say it. Then like Doug was fast. I knew that. It was obvious that he was really good. And then that's when the are you going to be as good as your brother stuff starts happening when you're younger. That happened to both Darren and I, but we could talk about that later. But anyways, Doug, I didn't mean to usurp.
No, they're so good. Those are good and sidebars to this story. Having Fry in your high school and in your home is a big deal, which leads me to our next thing. Was after I had signed, I got invited to the Shrine Bowl, and Reese Morgan just happened to be the head coach that year. And our team was loaded that year in Iowa. Back in the early 80s, if Iowa had, I believe it was like 8 Division I football recruits, it was considered a big year. That year, I believe we had 18 that went to Iowa State, Minnesota, Kevin Puckman, Stanford. There was like 18 guys. And Scott Davis was on the team on the other side. I'll tell you, Joe Faley is on my team as well.
Lou
Montgomery.
Lou from Waterloo, right? Lou Montgomery.
Lou is on the team. Yeah. Bob Reese ended up being my roommate my last year, was on the team. It was loaded. There was some serious talent. And right before the kickoff, Reese was in love with Lou. And how can you not? I was like, oh, man, I'd never give the ball to me. I would give it to Lou every damn time. And I was in
you're a running back.
And Lou was kind of fullback, tailback, going back and forth. I'm like, hey, you put him wherever. I'm okay. And they booted me to quote unquote second string. And I was like, I'm fine with it, man. We're all going the same place. And I'm never going to play running back again. And Lou's amazing. Reese had come up to me and just said, hey, we're featuring Lou. You're going to be in the back seat. I'm sorry, but we're just going to feature Lou in this game. Right before the start of it, I'm like, thanks, but I get it. And I was like, all right. But on the 8th or 9th carry, Lou puts it on the carpet. Guess what? You don't do it in Reese Morgan's offense.
The best part about the Shrine game, too, is you're playing with such talented people. You're like, oh, this is fun. I don't have to carry the weight. This is all these superstars. Yeah, I didn't even get dirty, I don't think, in that game.
Dude, all over the field, man. You're like, I used to be able to line up out at wideout, and I just run right by whoever it was. The guy was running by, I'm like, what the hell are you doing running right next to me? How are you doing that? Nobody does this. And it was this kid from Decorah, Mike Daisland. He's just running right with you. I'm like, what the hell? It was a hoot. And I ended up winning the MVP of that game. And so it got me a ton of notoriety being the offensive and game MVP of that. And we won the game. And so it was one of those things I didn't really think was that big a deal, but it ended up being a pretty big deal that people were like, I walked into Iowa and people were like, hey, you can play. And of course, then you walk into Iowa and you're like, oh my God, I'm awful. What am I doing here? I get put on 35 pounds. I'm embarrassing.
There's another memory I have. Doug and I joke that his son, Colin, looks more like me. My oldest son, Harry, looks more like Doug, which is to say, Harry is fast and skinny. Doug was fast, but super skinny, like so thin. What were you your sophomore year at Benton? How much did you weigh?
I got on the scale before our first game and I weighed 135 pounds.
so
I was 6 foot 6'2", 135 pounds.
So skinny. Then he went to Iowa, and obviously they're like, we got to put some weight on him. I don't know if it was like that summer or something. And I remember I said to him, did your head shrink? Because everything else around him got bigger for the first time in his life.
Yeah. It was that crazy doing that.
So let's dig into Benton community for a quick second. My mom actually grew up in Blairstown and went to Benton community. So yes, had that whole lineage through there, went to sauerkraut days, was kids, which is amazing. Tractor pull, bike races, the whole 9 yards. And I had my uncle John Less was there. He went to Iowa State. So there was a lot of good athletes coming out of Benton community, right? I guess my Aunt Cindy, I guess, was a really great basketball player. There was a whole slew of like great athletes, right?
A lot of them were named Les.
Yeah,
they were. A lot of them were named Les. But no, there was a time where somebody put up some statistic about the number of Division I football players that it came out of Benton over a very short period of time. Chad Hennings, me, there was somebody else that came through, and then Jeff was right out of it. That if it was a bigger city, like it would have been like tens of thousands of Division I football players out of one big city. There was that many that came out in just a very short period of time. Benton football was pretty legit. We were a 3A school, and we played in what was called the ECIC conference. And ironically enough, it had a 1A school in it in Iowa City, Regina, a 2A school in Dyersville, Beckman, home of Dave and Mike Haight, and then 3A schools of Benton Community, and then 2A school of Cedar Rapids, LaSalle, where Lad Wessels and a bunch of guys came out of there. Yeah. Then Cedar Rapids Prairie, and then Linn-Mar was also in that mix of 4A schools. So that conference, its last year, Linn-Mar won it, and this was, I believe, in 1986. Linn-Mar won it in 4A. LaSalle won it in 2A. Regina was runner-up in 1A. And none of the 3A schools made it because we all beat up on each other and had too many losses, and you basically had to go undefeated back then to get in the playoffs. But that's what that conference consisted of. And then they busted it all up, rightfully so, and made it a lot more better, but watching Linn-Mar run out 150 kids versus Regina running out back then, 24 total. I mean, Lions in there, it's just crazy what they can do. But yeah, that was some Benton football. There was a tremendous run of athletes that came through there. We got a few going through right now again. Everything goes in waves at these high schools where
everybody has kids and then their kids get the same thing. It's like all the offspring.
Amazing how genetics come into play. But look at Appleton Parkersburg for a while, just kicking out D1 guys every.
Oh, yeah. All pro guys for sure. Right. Jeff, I have a question for you specifically. I was in Doug's position where I was the first one to do well in the family and get this notoriety and had all these things happening. Did you realize your brother was a big deal at that point?
Yeah.
People get buzzing about that stuff, right? It's like Friday nights. They love it. They go to the grocery store and everybody's like, whoa, is he going to school? What's he doing? People get really excited about it. So what was it like for you at that point? Were you like, you start getting to work because you're like, I'm going to try to outdo him? Or what was your mindset?
Man, that's a really good nuanced question. I'm going to try to give the answer without talking too much. But like, when you're that young, it's hard to grasp things. But I would say starting around 10 or 11, as you're getting into like later elementary and middle school, you can start grasping things a little bit. It happened more as he was at Iowa. and then starting at Iowa. Like we'll probably talk about the 1990 Rose Bowl team. So that team took over the state of Iowa, like as they started beating Michigan and Ohio, and Michigan State was a big deal. And your brother is starting on the team. So that was the first time where it was like, whoa, this is a big deal. Then I was going to the football complex and I was hanging out with the starters. Like they were just Doug's friends. And that
My
was
guy Hayden, I know. My
roommates.
buddy.
And roommates.
yeah. Yeah, we could get into a couple of Doug's roommates and stuff like so. That was a big deal. Doug, I hope you don't mind me telling this story. But when you said the small town stuff, listen, I want to preface this by saying I love Benton community. I love small town Iowa. It's the heart of the United States. It's towns like that. But everybody knows everybody, which is good. Everybody knows everybody, which can be not so good at times as well. And in 1990, Doug was a Cooper DeJean-ish. He was their punt returner. He was Iowa's starting punt returner, and he was pretty good. When you get that because you're fast and speedy. Tough night down in South Beach playing Miami. Rainy, humid day. Ball goes up in the air. Doug fumbled it. Iowa was right at Miami in that game. Like it was a really good game all throughout. And Iowa winds up losing the game. And everybody saw that. I think the game was televised, or at least back then they were listening to it on the radio. I can't even remember how I watched it or listened TV. Okay. And of course, that's your brother. And so your heart breaks for your brother. You feel awful. And then I got to school the next day, and a couple of kids just tortured me about we were going to win that game, and your brother dropped that punt. And at that point, you say, F you. It's the books against the world. A little bit like that. I don't mean to overstate that. When you're at that level, things are great. When they're not good, you get jumped on. It's really no different than it is now. It's just that social media amplifies everything then. But humans are no different then and now. It's just that they have bigger and louder megaphones to talk from. But that's what I remember. But overall, like going to Doug's house after they have a big win, going to the ground round to have a burger after the Iowa football game when you're 10, 11 years old, that's the cat's pajamas right there, man. It doesn't get any better than that.
We always took a player or two. Always took somebody with us.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Was this 1990 ground round?
Oh, heck yeah.
I might have been working there. That was
89.
I had a job over, it might have been a little later because it was the winter of 90. I worked there because I didn't go out for basketball one season. And I had to get a
89,
job.
you'd have
Yeah.
grown there.
I had a
one
major
more.
burger or a major side rice or something.
Doug, I got one more. These things are popping into my head. I apologize, you guys, but who was the East Coast offensive lineman that you brought
Mike
home?
Ferroni. It was Ferroni and Mike Devlin. Brought them
And
both.
so I love Devil. He was the nicest guy to me. Some of the football players, you're around them, and they're like, oh, it's your little brother. And they play around with you. And some guys are just dicks. That's just not how they interact with kids or whatever. But anyway,
Mike Ferroni was just like, who's this little shit?
exactly. And
Or they're just like, they're going to beat you up and do the same shit your older brother did. But
yeah.
It's just, they're just like part of that. So
Nick can talk. But anyways, Ferroni had never been on a farm, let
Neither
alone
Devlin.
right, neither did Devlin. So they wanted to come see the farm. So that's why it's only a 45, 50-minute drive from Iowa City to our parents' house. So Doug took him out and he brought him into the barn, into the farrowing ground. And we got the pigs
Babies.
nursing, like it's quiet, it's warm in there. And they were just blown away. Oh my God, look at all these pigs. This is insane. And Doug's talking through the process. And then right as we're walking out, Ferroni goes, Sue! And he just screams, and all of the pigs jump up and they go, and Doug's there, like, dude, you can't do that. And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
And then he looks at me and goes, why aren't they running towards me? I thought you said Suey. They come running towards you. I'm like, no, it doesn't happen like
I don't know how many of your listeners are even going to have heard the word Sue before, but
Well.
somebody heard it first.
oh, amazing. There was another story that Ferroni might have said about getting pulled over with a bunch of shotguns in the van too, or something. I think
How'd you hear about that?
Ferroni told that story.
Yeah, we go the third time out there at my parents' farm, and we had just rounded up, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 shotguns. And we go out to the farm, and Mike Ferroni, Lad Wessels, Scott Davis, Mike Devlin, me, there's 4 or 5 more. They just wanted to go shoot shotguns and walk a fence line. And they literally loaded up everything. The first bird they saw, boom, second, boom, they were just shooting random little birds, red-winged blackbirds, just blasting them out of the air 10 feet from the van. We'd been outside 3 minutes, and they were just shooting everything. It sounded like a mini war going on. 15 minutes, the cops show up. I mean, we had shotguns everywhere. It was enough to basically haul us away.
Start a militia.
And they said, put them in that van, get the hell out of Benton County. And so we did.
Wow.
We took them all back. But it sounded like a mini war going on at the farm. Take the city boys out on the acreage, and they just think it's a free-for-all. And, it is, but it isn't.
We had a few of those experiences as well. You're like, wait, this is not a great idea.
I was like, what am I thinking? I thought we were going to walk the fence line and kind of talk, shoot some birds. And no, we didn't even make it to the fence line. So they were blowing up everything. Jeez. Think about it from an older brother's perspective, too, to get to watch your younger brother come up through. He was not normal in terms of toughness. So there's tough, and then there's really tough, and then there's what he was like as a 7th and 8th grader. And in 7th grade, that they evenly divided all the kids up, and Jeff would carry the ball 6 times and somehow score 8 touchdowns. And it was just destroying people. And they're like, the second game, let's put a few of these kids on one team and good ones with Jeff. And then he still scored 8 touchdowns. And then they're like, all right, we're going to give Jeff every derelict idiot that is never going to graduate from junior high. And we're going to put Jeff against all the good kids. And then they finally stopped him. So it was wild to watch. The kid had been educated. He knew football to a level that was hard to even really grasp for other.
Like, obviously, athletic ability is always going to be important. It's funny. We were just talking about this with some buddies of mine. Our kids are just all getting into a little more serious level of sports. And we just talked yesterday about how kids that have older brothers have such an advantage. Like, I had watched Doug and Darren's highlight films. So they put highlight films back in the day on a cassette tape. Yeah, you guys know that. We kept those highlight films that they had given around to colleges. I would watch those all summer long, starting in middle school. So I knew plays simply because it was the same ones that Doug and Darren had run. So it's just a huge advantage by the time you start playing. Some kids hadn't hardly ever played or even thought about football up to that point.
It's funny you say that, because my youngest brother, John, went to state wrestling and ended up getting second. And I don't know if he really knew how to wrestle. He just was so tough. He'd been beaten up and been through it. It was just tough, and got almost to the top of state wrestling in Iowa, which is a pretty big accomplishment. I think just on his grit alone, I think.
Yep.
Doug was actually the one that made me mentally tougher and positive. Darren was the one that made me physically tougher, because we were 3.5 years apart and he beat the living tar out of me. So both of my brothers had a role with any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting too. My older brother, I guess that's a kind of a different dynamic with your other brother too, right? I'm sure he was talented as well. Same situation with my older brother. People would always be like, oh, what's Nick doing? I'm sure he got tired of that.
Darren was the starting safety at Drake, the Division I football program. He was really good. And I'd like to point out, he's the only one that won a state championship out of the 3 of us. He won a state championship in 4x8 for track. So he definitely had his high points of his career as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with my brother. I think still has the high school record for maybe most interceptions in a game. I think he had like 4 or 5. Just like,
wow.
Yeah, center point of bat. Just had like an unbelievable night, which was funny you say about the Shrine game, because that coach ended up being my coach at the Shrine game as well. So it was like this same sort of thing, local community and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Darren also played in the Shrine Bowl. We were 3 for 3.
Wow.
For the 3 of us.
And Jeff was MVP of his year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had Sam Mosier was my coach. He coached He was Fort Dodge. He coached Randy Reiners. He was a good cat. And I had a similar situation. So when I was getting recruited, everybody just looked at me as a D-back. So I was, because of Doug and both of my older brothers. So it was just D-back as a recruiting. Iowa had kind of looked at my film and said, we think we want to try you at fullback at Iowa. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So I got listed as fullback on the Shrine Bowl roster. I remember it was the first practice at Shrine Bowl. I've only been in a tailback position with standing up with your hands on your thighs. That's how we did it at Benton. I had never been down in a 3-point almost in my entire life. So I'm down in a fullback stance, and there was this kid, he's actually had a scholarship to go to Iowa State. He was the starting tailback. I went up to Mosier and I said, listen, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but I've never actually played fullback. The only thing I've played is a tailback. He said, we'll give you and this other kid both a chance to look, and we'll just see how it goes. And I beat him out and at practice and wound up being captain and then MVP. And we had a good team too. I don't know if we had that many D1 guys, but LeVar was on the team. Ryan Hansen was the starting quarterback for the other team. Sage Rosenfels was the starting quarterback of our team. And there was certainly a lot of other D1 guys on the 96 Shrine Bowl too. And we played coincidentally in Drake Stadium in Des Moines. So that was a fun week. The Shrine Bowl was a blast.
Nice. Yeah, those are fun times. So I guess the question I have, you were talking about the speed. So you guys' track team must have been off the hook then. Or did you not go out for track?
No, my school record in the 100 and 200 just got broken by a kid in my son's class.
Oh, wow.
So at one point in time, when Jeff graduated, I held the 100, 200 record, and we had the 4x4.
Aaron had the 400.
We had the open 4x8, and I think distance medley, or you sprint medley.
We were sprint. I think we actually broke his distance medley. So we had sprint medley. We had 4x4.
Basically, our name was associated with, I think, 9 of the running records at Benton at one point in time.
I think you had long jump too at that time. We had everything except for the distance and shot put, and then high jump. That was about it. Yeah.
And my son's a decathlete at the University of Northern Iowa, so it brings
that makes sense.
Full circle then, yeah. I used to get tired of a guy named Robert Galloway would call me up all the time and be like, oh, I broke this record of yours. I broke this record. And I was like, I thought my high jump record was going to stand. It was like at 6'4". I was like, he's a big kid.
You got to get that.
Right.
He went 6'6". I'm like,
what's left?
Of course, he never stopped either. Then he was like, oh, I got the outlet trophy. Now my name's in the stadium. I'm like, man, bro, you got me a long time ago. No.
Knock it off.
Yeah, knock it off.
We're good.
And that's what's interesting. Nick and I, Doug and Robert, all played at Iowa. But it's a reverse. Like, Nick, you had a very good career. You were an excellent punter. But it's opposite. You had the younger brother that went on to outrageous success. I was on the opposite side, where it was my older brother trying to live up to it. It's just those little nuances with brothers that play at Iowa. It's a unique thing. And I swear you see it at Iowa more than anywhere, where siblings go to play at the same spot, or now father and son. There's so many of that happening with, obviously, Epi when he was at Iowa, which I think that's a awesome thing with the continuity.
Such a great place.
Oh my gosh. And then the continuity between Hayden Fry to Coach Ferentz. We're certainly not the first ones to say this, but 1978 all the way to present day, 2025, 2 coaches with so many coaches that share similarities between the 2 head coaches and all the staffs. It's a pretty incredible thing from where I'm standing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even talking about the competition in the families, I think our family was the same. We had more competition within the family than we did outside of it almost. Like, I wanted to beat my brother and pick up basketball so badly. I'm going to do anything I can to beat this guy. And just that drove me. And then everybody in our family had their own thing. My sister was a high jumper. John was a wrestler and won the discus, I think. And just so everybody had their own thing, but just really competitive wise. And then you mentioned our relatives, like going to a family reunion was like, oh my God, I got to get the shit beat out of me by Mike and John. They were like 6'4", 250. I'm like a skinny high school kid. And I was like, oh God, but it's like going to a Iowa basketball. These guys just hammer.
And Nick, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but Then our cousins, the Jungies, like starting quarterback at Simpson. Like we had our cousins were pretty good athletes too. And that when all of us were together, we competed. Just you played sports and you competed. You divvied up the talent as best you could. You found a game that would match skills, and everybody was trying to win. And then I would go to recess or gym class in like 6th or 7th grade, and I did not understand why kids didn't want to win the game. And I would get kicked out of recesses, gym classes because I was like, you just don't think of that stuff when you're a little kid.
Oh yeah, that was the same way. I was full throttle, and I remember we'd have dodgeball, right, and we'd have the volleyballs, and I would be the only person on my team because everyone else got knocked out, and I literally would just pick off like 15 people in a row to win it, and everybody would be so upset with me.
Yeah.
I was just so into it, and they're like, "Yeah, I couldn't understand why they weren't doing the same thing." That's amazing.
Started my sophomore year. We had a good football team. My cousin was the starting quarterback that year. Just a memorable year. Junior, senior year. Started getting the offers junior year, the summer before my senior year of football. That's when the first offers came in, to be specific. And it was Dan McCarney that was then coaching at Iowa State. So Coach McCarney, love that dude. I know he went and coached at Iowa State, but Dan McCarney is very well loved by the Buch family. And growing up, obviously a huge Hawkeye fan, brother played for him. Everybody just assumed I was going to Iowa, but man, Coach McCarney made it close. He was a phenomenal recruiter. Oh my gosh. And he made you feel like you were the most important person in the room every single time. So like the fact that Coach McCarney just made it that close to go is pretty huge. I remember at the Iowa State camp, myself and 4 or 5 other guys got offered that day, and they all committed to Iowa State except for me. And they did not understand why I didn't commit. And I was like, well, I want to see what else is out there.
Ever been over to get him?
These guys were good football players.
I know everybody in the team right now.
Yeah, it was hard pressure. I remember our dad, Jim, was sitting in the meeting with me, and a pretty good senior year, maybe not quite as good as I wished it would have been. And it was my senior year, and I honestly can't remember if it was middle of my senior year or right towards the end, but you get the 3 tickets to the home game, and the tickets were meant for you and your parents. That's the 3 tickets you were supposed to go with back then. My parents were going to watch Darren play football, so they didn't go to my recruiting stuff because they went to Darren's stuff. So I took buddies to the game because who else you going to go with? So shout out to my friends Wes and Matt. That's who went to the game with me. And then they march us into the old locker room, and would be the southwest corner of the end zone. And they took us in. I was with a couple other recruits, and Coach Fry comes up. He's like, "Hi, Jeff. How you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, Coach Fry." And he's like, "Shoot, how do you feel?" And I'm like, "Good." And he's like, "So you going to be a Hawk?" And I'm like, "Do you want me to? What are you saying?" He's like, "We offered you." And I think maybe that was his showmanship to the deal. He wanted to stun me a little bit. And I was so stunned. I think I said something stupid like, "Can I get back to you?" I don't know. I don't know what I said. And I didn't commit on the spot. And then I walked out of the tunnel and I found my 2 buddies and I gave them the like I was absolutely stoked that I got the offer. But I had heard about these little things called recruiting visits, and I wanted to experience those recruiting visits for myself. So I got 2 of them at Iowa State and Iowa.
And Arizona State.
The funny thing is, I was getting recruited pretty hard by Northwestern, and I've never figured out. It was either they finally looked at my transcript of my grades, or they got good that year. And anyways, Northwestern dropped off. I didn't hear from them anymore. And Nebraska wanted me to walk on. They had their walk-on program. And I remember they were so arrogant. They could not understand why I wasn't taking them up on their walk-on offer. And I'm like, I got 2 scholarship offers. I'm not paying for college. I remember that one pretty clearly. But I did Iowa State first. Had a great time. Lit a guy on fire during my recruiting visit. He's fine. Don't worry. And then shoot, Nick, Brian, I don't know. Maybe you guys were involved with, because God rest in peace, a certain quarterback was my host when I got recruited at Iowa. Ryan Driscoll was my host.
Who I recruited to go to Iowa because his host, Paul Burmeister, got in a fight with his girlfriend, and I finished off the recruiting for him. How wild this circle is.
Yeah, and I got to know him during state wrestling, okay? So I requested him to be my host. So he went to the first night thing, and then we're driving away. Driscoll's going to show me a good time. And we get in the car. So the first time, it's just the two of us. And he goes, "Did you request me to be your host?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Why?" And I go, "We partied together at state wrestling." And he goes, "Oh man, we're going to have a great weekend." And we did. We had a great weekend. Do you remember Taco? I was at Taco's condo in, I think it was North Liberty or wherever the heck it was at. And in his bathroom, I may have puked a little bit because there are things in my stomach that I had never ingested before. Just alcohol, folks. That's all. I wasn't used to it, but it was a good recruiting visit. And it wasn't long after I went on my Iowa recruiting visit, I called up Coach McCarney and just said, it's not going to happen, and then come into Iowa.
That's a hard sell, right? It's a hard sell, especially if your brother's gone through that.
Yeah.
And you've got all those people, the John Streefs and the Rita Foley's and like those types. You're just like, that's a second family, right?
The equipment manager, Greg, knew Jeff. Like, of course you got to go there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Coach Elliott recruited me. He wasn't on the staff that year. If you guys can remember, that was the couple years he was off the staff because he had to get healthy. So I sat and watched an Iowa game up in the stands with him almost the entire game. And he was telling me, this is how they would use you at Iowa at D-back and stuff like that. So it was pretty powerful. But man, Coach McCarty, there was one night I was at my high school girlfriend's house and the phone rings. He had called my parents' house and they said, "Coach, he's not here. He's at his girlfriend's house." So he called my girlfriend's house and we're having dinner with my girlfriend and her folks and her little brother. And the phone rings and her little brother goes to answer it. And he's, "What?" He's a real young kid. He's like 8 or 9. And he's like, "Jeff, some guy says he's Hayden Fry. He's on the phone." And I just figure it's one of my buddies messing with me. I pick up the phone. It's Dan McCarney impersonating Coach Fry as he called my girlfriend's house.
Oh my God.
Who did we hear? LeVar said Hayden called him at his Iowa State visit, which I thought was amazing. So those guys went at it. Oh yeah, I was like, that's a savage move.
Found his hotel room and got a hold of him somehow.
And LeVar was the only guy that was on both the Iowa State and Iowa recruiting visit with me. It was awesome. I mean, we got to know each other really well during those recruiting visits. And then the Shrine Bowl, and then we wound up being roommates at Iowa, buddies. We all know LeVar's an even better dude than he is football player and coach. And he's pretty excellent at both of those things. And then, on to Iowa. The funny story was I remember when you're a freshman and they get you to stand up in the room and announce your name and position and where you're from. And I stood up and I said, "Jeff Buch, running back, Benton Community." And there was a bunch of your seniors in there and they're like, because there were guys that played with Iowa and played with Doug. And it's insane when you think about that's how perfect the gap was because of the extra year. Fifth-year seniors played with Doug when he was a fifth-year senior and they were true freshmen. Now they're fifth-year seniors and I'm a true freshman. And that was Sed Shaw. And I'm trying to think of some of the other guys that would have been. Tommy Knight.
Tommy would have been D-back.
And they were like, how old?
Kerry Cooks.
Kerry Cooks is another one. Yeah.
Yeah, Kerry Cooks.
You just think about it. If you're there 5 years, that's quite a stint. And if you play a lot, like I did my freshman year, people are like, "Are you ever leaving? Are you ever getting out of here?" And I'm like, "I guess so, but yeah, I'm done." They just associate with you like being old, and it's a long time.
I had the same experience with Phil Parker, hoping I would leave by the time I was a fifth-year senior. Because the stories that revolve around me abruptly end after the Shrine Bowl and when I first got to Iowa, because unfortunately my playing days at Iowa didn't go nearly as well as I hoped they would.
Doug, you mentioned something with McCarney. Is there another story with McCarney trying to get a hold of you or trying to get a hold of Jeff?
That was
McCarney putting pressure on you to get him to come.
I think the story with regards to Fry and McCarney, they're great salesmen. At the end of the day, you're selling yourself, selling your programs, selling your school. They are phenomenal, high pressure salesmen. And McCarney was going to use any angle he could, knowing that him and I had a relationship. He called me. I lived in Wisconsin. Somehow tracked down. Of course, we didn't have cell phones. I had a bag phone that I carried around in my truck with me. But he found my home phone number in Wisconsin, called me, and we shot the shit for like 15, 20 minutes. And he's like, hey, man, I need your brother. I go, I know. I understand what you're trying to do and build. And we all know it's going to take a Hawkeye to turn that shithole around over there in Ames. It's the only way this is going to get done. But it's up to him. And I think he got a tough road to go. Pretty special, as it was to you. It was to me, Dan, and he felt it the whole time.
Doug didn't say a word to me. Not a word. I remember even thinking, why isn't Doug talking me through this? He's as good a person as anybody to give me advice, but I think he was maybe didn't want to tip his hat or whatever. He certainly asked me questions and stuff like that. Doug and Darren and our parents raised us to be our own person and figure stuff out quite a bit on your own. That was up to me to figure out. But I do remember when I told Doug that I committed to Iowa and he let loose a rebel yell. I was like, oh, honestly, I didn't even know. At that point, I was wondering if he even cared.
Oh, yeah, I cared. You just don't want to put undue pressure on a situation that already has enough pressure on it. So you got to let it play its course and hope the best decision, the right decision, which was made.
I think I would have played more at Iowa State. They were in the midst of a pretty big rebuild at that time. You look back and you're just like, things tend to work out how they're supposed to work out as far as how your time at Iowa or anywhere else goes. And I certainly remember a lot of good times just being on the team with some of them involving Brion and Nick, you guys right here. And we played with a lot of good dudes.
One more McCarney story that I got to relay. Ron Gator, who was on the 90 Rose Bowl team with me from Marion. And a few months ago, we were at a trade show together and Gator got on a phone call with Mac because Mac was on a text thread with Jim Johnson, D lineman, and I think Matt Ruland was on that thread and a bunch of other people. They were all on the thread with Mac, and then Gator called him and I talked to him for a little bit. It sounded just the exact same. Doug Buch, you skinny bastard, how the hell are you? It just rolls absolutely right into it. And when I took my visit, Marv Cook was my host.
Oh, was he? Nice. Marv today.
So the Marvelous, and he was freaking legend at Iowa by then. Gotta love Marv. And Marv said that McCarney pulled an extra 60 out of his own wallet and handed it to Marv. And Marv goes, they must really want you. He gave me an extra $60. And I was like, wow. Marv goes, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
I run that night when we went from the old field house and then we went to the column and then Marv ditched me for some chick. I had to pick up my own tab. I had to buy my own food at Burger King later on because Marv ditched me. But it was a great visit with Marv.
I hosted Cody O'Hare. Got him. He became a Hawkeye. I remember it was like
everybody.
Oh yeah. It was a little manila envelope that they gave me with the cash in it. I honestly don't remember, $150 or something like that, which is a lot. And I remember thinking, all right, now the important thing is he just has a good time. So as cheap as I can do this, as long as he has a good time, I can pocket the rest. So it was like penny pitchers. I don't know where we went to, but it was a cheap night out.
Olin Zach.
Okay.
Scott Plate, who got thrown in jail.
No way. Oh shit.
He was awesome. Like his brother Todd Plate.
I think what we're solidifying here is this will be the last time any books are going to be on an Iowa roster. If any of the coaches ever hear
done
this.
After this. We sit down at dinner at Iowa River and Power. Did you guys do the Iowa River and Power thing?
Yeah.
and lobster tail was awesome. And I was in it for the food and the money as well. And Scott Plate's sitting next to me, and he goes, "Do you drink?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm planning on getting loaded, man. I know how these things work." I go, "All right, we can do that." And so finish up and go back to the dorms, and we're sitting there, and he goes, "Let's go to the bars." Dude, it's 7:15. Can't go down there yet. And he's like, "No, let's go." I'm like, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, let's go." So we go down to the field house, we sit down, go walking in, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, we really are sitting here exposed. We shouldn't be doing this. So I order a pitcher, and waitress no more than sets the pitcher down right in front of me and Scott. And not 2 seconds later, the Iowa City police walk in.
Oh, wow.
And I'm seeing them walking through, and they make a beeline for Scott because they know what's going on. And I'm like, "Come on, dude, you can't do this. He's a recruit." And they're like, "Screw you, Doug." I don't know how the hell they knew who the hell I was, but they were like, "Nope, it's too stupid. You're stupid enough to bring him in here. This is what happens, dummy." They were just really hammering me. And I'm like, "Come on, you cannot do this to this kid. Take me downtown. Let him go." And they're like, "Nope, we're screwing you." And I must have done something to them in earlier life, but I don't know
Wow.
what it was. They hauled him out of there in cuffs. And what was wild about it, I step out of the field house, and there was a line of people trying to get in. And John Derby, Mike Saunders was there. They were a year older than me. And Teddy Joe Faley was another guy that was there. They all had recruits. And I go to them and I say, "Boys, I need $300. I got to get him out of jail. It's bail money." In fact, I think I still owe Faley $100. And he's all right. He can live without it. And so I reach out my hand, and in 2 seconds, I had all the money. And I basically followed the cop car down there, posted bail, got him out, went back to my room, bought more beer, back to my room. I'm like, "We're not going out again." And I'm sitting there, and we started drinking. And the next morning, they do that academic part after the drunkathon you're on the night before. And I get a call, Bobby Elliott. And he's, "You want to explain what the frick happened last night?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I walk him through it, and he goes, "How long was he in jail?" And I'm like, "I think he got in and out, and he was done." We were back in the room 45 minutes after it happened. I cannot believe this. You're going to be lucky if you even have a scholarship when this is all said and done.
Whoa.
And I'm like, wow. He goes, "This is going to make the papers. You are embarrassing Coach Fry. You're embarrassing the Iowa Hawkeye program. You have no idea what you've done."
You're like, "I'm recruiting for you.
For you, and your recruit wanted to go downtown and get loaded.
You gave me money to get him drunk.
You gave me money to get him drunk. What do you think happens here?" And I was kind of like pissed, but I was like,
Wait.
"Just so you know, he's going to commit. He's going to commit." Bobby Elliott's just going berserk. I'm like, "He's going to commit." And I think you're going to see a lot of kids are going to commit. He's not committing. A couple hours later, Plate walked in, and they had already offered him. Scott Plate's, "Oh, I'm coming to Iowa." And he
good
was
time.
ready to go to Michigan. He goes, "Man, these Iowa boys, they stick together. You would have never seen that happen in Michigan." He goes, "Buch walked out of that place, said he needed money, and everybody threw money at him. You want to talk about teammates, supporting teammates? All of the guys they wanted that weekend, all of them committed."
Wow.
It was a
That's
great
incredible.
ending to a tough lesson. That's what it was.
That was a good ending.
But
That was a good.
I got all the recruits. Everybody that was hard to give, they gave them to me and said they wanted me to bring them in. So I did what I had to do.
Have you guys had Dwight on the pod?
No, not yet. We
Yeah.
gotta go back and forth to get dates.
Yeah, I think he wore number 6 at Iowa because of Scott Plate. I could be making that up,
Fact. Nope, that's
Okay.
fact.
but okay.
He loves Scott Plate. Plate was a baller. He's a good dude. Yeah.
Jack. That guy had the biggest arms.
Yeah.
Oh, you never seen a guy when we just do those arm curls. I've never seen a DB put 245s on each side and a 210s just to make sure he got tired at it. He was stacked.
And just let me say, like, being on the team, I think anybody knows. Like, I've talked to enough ex D1 football players. Like, I think the fans think that, like, everybody on the team is chummy together. That's not in reality, what it is. I try to explain to people all the time. Think about if you work with 20 people in an office, do you guys all get along? Do you people all get along? No. And I'm like, it's the same way on a football team. But if you can put everything up to the side and work to the goal, that's the most important part. But there were certainly guys on the team that were just, I don't know, say good guys and some guys that weren't so good. I'm recording with Doug's my brother, but I'm recording with two guys that were good guys, like Brion, Nick. You guys were both good dudes to me. I was a younger guy. You didn't have to be. You were both cool to me. Brion, I'll apologize. I don't think I talked to you very much because I was explicitly told not to talk to kickers because if you say something to a kicker and you screw up their mentality, it could be on you. So I was petrified to talk to you and Bromert and any one of our kickers when I was there. I don't know if necessarily the same thing went with punters. Nick, you always seemed like you could handle what was thrown at you. So I don't think I worried about with you quite as much.
I probably
I
should have
didn't
been
talk
a
to anyone
linebacker.
else. That's okay. So you weren't alone. I only talked to about 3 or 4 people in total.
So it wasn't just
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
Brian, what I remember is your kicking style. The first time I saw you line up and you twisted your body around, I had never seen that before. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
that was just a weird thing that I picked up. I was just playing around with different things. I was like, I just can never find the right rhythm. And then that one, I was like, I can launch the ball with this thing. It does look ridiculous. I don't like that it is awkward, but it seems to work. So I'm just going to stick with it for now. When I went to
You did.
Giants training camp, they corrected that. So let's get into a more normal approach here. And it worked. And then Paul Ettinger was a Bears kicker, and he did something like that too a little bit later. And
Similar.
he had a
Yeah.
long career too. I don't know. It's some kind of weird thing figured out, but it
And
was awkward.
and Nick, you just missed. You were at Iowa right before punting was cool. If you could be going through now, then you'd be at the cooler position.
People got excited about it back then. Even I can remember years later, people were like, "Oh, Nick Galloway, you're punter for Iowa," and I was like, "That was 15 years ago." I was like, "How do you even know who I am?" It's like,
And a part of that is the Achilles heel of the 1990 Rose Bowl team was punting, unfortunately. So by the time Nick got there, Iowa fans were very appreciative of good punting.
decent punting. I think I did decent. That's why I tell people I was like, we'd struggled a while, and I showed up and did decent, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, nobody talk to him, nobody do anything else." Okay,
Don't mess it up. Yeah.
And Hurley, to be honest, like we live with him, so he wouldn't talk to us either. We talk shit to him in the room. Like, "Hey, Brian, get in here, get out of here, and talk to somebody. What are you doing in there?" Dude, always like 5 times a day, someone was heckling him to come out of his room because he was just full hermit style. Mid 1990s, he wasn't saying shit to nobody.
Brian, we talked after the alumni thing 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Afterwards, at one of the bars we went downtown, I remember it's like, that's the most I've talked to Brian in my entire life. Just that one night.
It took me a while to come out of my shell, but now I'm doing podcasts.
I was like, wait, he doesn't say much. I'm like, that's not a great idea. This thing's not going anywhere fast.
It's a big element of podcasting, yeah.
I was like, we're both going to sit there and look at like Beavis and Butthead at each other here.
That's how I gravitated into professional business training. So yeah, who knew? But yeah, I guess you kind of like grow out of your shell. And hindsight, I think this is part of the podcast here is like, because I was so shy, I didn't really get to know everyone very well. I had the surface level friendships with everyone and got along with everyone, but now I'm like, I really wanted to dig into like everyone's backstory. I just would read it in the media guides and stuff and get to know people that way. But now I'm like having a chance to go back and really get to have these cool conversations.
Nice.
I don't know if Doug, we ever talked much, probably not, but other than just, I know you're on the team, I'm on the team, that's about it.
Yeah, but you're in the other locker room.
True.
So it's a whole different world, offensive, defense, locker room, and what goes on in that. It's a separated thing for a reason. So first year was Chuck Hartley and Marv Cook's senior year. That was the year we had 3 ties.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you? Wow.
Disgusting.
How about that?
Disgusting. The next year we went 5-6, and it was horrible. We had some seniors that year: Merton Hanks, one of them, Mel Foster, Jim Johnson, Matt Rule. We had seniors that were pissed, and you could see the difference in us going into spring training that next year. Like winter conditioning was at a psychotic level. Like they were killing us during winter conditioning. Then we go into spring ball and we went 1s versus 1s. That's asking a lot. When you put 1s on 1s, at a D1 program, O-line, D-line. That means we were number ones tackling Nick Bell. Freaking Nick Bell, all 6'4", 255 freaking pounds of steer running at you in spring ball. And he could leave a trail of bodies. But it is kind of wild that trying to mesh all this together, Jeff alluded to it earlier. You have a lot of guys that I wouldn't give them the time of day. I didn't like them at all. And then you had other guys, man, you'd take a gun for them. But it's just a great experience. Do you guys ever dream about it? Do you guys still wake up and have dreams about stuff? And
every August, I still
I wouldn't call them dreams. I'd call them nightmares.
Yes,
That's true. Yeah.
That
I forgot my
is
socks. Can't find my helmet. It's like
Every
my
time.
key.
I'm like,
Right.
I'm
every
late.
time.
Locked out of
like-
the stadium.
We were talking about just a little bit before we started recording. Today is a seminal day in the Buch house because my 9-year-old just got his first football helmet and equipment for his first year of tackle football. And he doesn't even know. He's going to remember this for the rest of his life. And starting back in high school, certainly through Iowa, that just intense fear of spring ball and then even more so fall camp. It is hardwired where it like just you can set your watch by it. Mid-August, I wake up in a cold sweat. And Brian, you nailed it. It's never about strictly football. There might be like one coach that's a part of it, but yeah, you're always forgetting your helmet, your socks, you're naked at practice, whatever the stupid nightmare puts out.
And just beating into you about being late. I think, Brian, was it you and I think we were at Michigan State or someplace and we had overslept and we walk into the meeting in the big hotel room. It's like everybody's staring at you, just they got that look on their face. They're like just petrified of being late, these things, right?
I almost missed the bus one time on a road trip and it was just like, yeah, that fear's still there. And I wake up and it's something happened and you couldn't get to the stadium and you missed the team bus and then you're trying to knock down the outside and you got your uniform on and the game's going on and you're like, I can't even warm up yet and I just gotta somehow get on the field and they won't let me in and then you wake up and you're like, come on, this was 30 years ago. Why am I still having these kind of stupid dreams and nightmares?
Now I'm to the point where I hope I have them forever.
Just embrace it. Makes you feel alive.
Yes, I guess Coach Ferentz has been in a few of them. So I'm like, oh, I'm playing for Coach Ferentz. This is awesome. Then I was like, oh, wait, I guess I'm not.
Doyle's the one that shows up in my dreams, aka nightmares, the most.
Yeah, talk to us about that, the transition from Fry to Ferentz.
Weird, right? Like, again, Coach Fry being the real governor of Iowa, that's who you always wanted to play for. You started kind of reading through the tea leaves a little bit that it was going to happen. Tough time that it happened for me because unless you were demonstrably better your junior and senior year, they're going to err towards the younger guys playing. I was not even as good as the young guys coming in, so I had no shot. And I think I was smart enough to know that I could see the writing on the wall for myself at the time. I pretty much knew that my playing career was done at Iowa. With that being said, Coach Ferentz couldn't have handled that with any more class with me. Everything, like, it was needed, the rewiring of things inside the program. Obviously, it worked. Iowa got better each and every year after Coach Ferentz's first year. But I think most people would tell you that was on the team is it was rough at first, but I really felt like everybody knew the stuff that was happening was the right thing to do as well. So that's not easy to pull off. Like, I guarantee you there was people telling Coach Ferentz, what are you doing? Don't do it this way. Like, how do you go 1-10 that first year? And like, but Coach Ferentz has always been the same way. It seems like it's not like I talked to the guy or anything like that, but if he feels like it's the right path to go down, he's going to keep going down it. That's how she went down.
You were still on the team, but you just got delegated off.
Yeah, I was still on the team. Like, I told people all the time, I'm like, if I had Ed Reed's talent, I would have played at Iowa. And then you get older and you're like, if I would have had Ed Reed's mentality, I might have played at Iowa too, to attack the day like that guy. And that's a lesson there. Some people can figure that stuff out a little bit earlier in life. It took me till probably mid-20s till I really kind of learned through that process. Yeah, I finished on the team. I got the jersey and the frame. Like, I made it all the way through, but it was a little rough. those last couple years, but thankfully guys like LeVar, Kevin Casper, Aaron Campman, those guys were there. Dallas Clark, Bob Sanders. I remember Bob Sanders. We didn't know who that guy was. He comes in and just starts absolutely thumping people at practice, like pretty much the first time he was in pads at Iowa. Like, obviously, the coaches did a great job of finding the talent that they knew to fit their system and develop it, and it hasn't changed in the last 27 years.
I think if it makes you feel any better, all of us have this like chip on our shoulders or this like negative voice in our head that says you should have done this or you didn't do this. So I think now looking back as an older guy thinking it's like it didn't really matter. It didn't matter if I played 12 years in the league or I was a walk-on and didn't play. I think it's just like you're in that scenario, you get the experience, you get the like tools to work your way through the rest of your life. I think it's easy to have this hierarchy of stuff and people that's in the day it doesn't really matter. At least it feels that way. And maybe that's wrong for me to say, but
no, I'm not wrong at all. In fact, the opposite, Nick. You're not the first person to tell me that, but I appreciate hearing it. It was actually, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, Randy Reiner said it to me, like, would you let it go? Nobody cares, man. You're fine. Like, it's good.
Nobody gives a fuck.
It's good to hear. But it's also something that I'm trying to instill in my boys. Seize the chance that you get to try to have success and stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to be the overbearing dad that pushes it too hard too. So now I'm trying to kind of learn through that balance.
It's a fine line, and it's interesting for us. I think we're probably on 30 some guys at this point, and to see the little pieces, like everybody had talent, right? And the little pieces that they picked up along the way, whether it was film study or the nuances of the game or doing those things that just really helped them either get to the next level, the people that they met, coaches that kind of push them along. So it's an interesting thing when people start to be like, how do I get my kid to be a pro football player? And you're like, well, it's like there's 1,000 little pieces that are going to go into this journey, and they've got to do it themselves. They've got to have that motor inside to say, I want to do this and achieve and do just that rote mechanism of I'm going to do this a million times and get my teeth kicked in and keep coming back.
Luck or not getting injured or getting injured at the right time or the wrong time.
For sure.
Wow.
Coaching changes and all that stuff.
There's a Benton community connection I want to make. Nick, I think we went and did a summer camp when we were playing. So it might have been 94, 95, 96 at Benton Community. Reese was there. I had a t-shirt that said Benton Community Summer Football Camp, and we went up there to help out. And I don't remember what year it was. Do you remember?
That would have been Cal Goodchild. And then 90s, I would have been gone by then, so maybe it would have been then.
Now you say Cal Goodchild rings a bell. So my uncle, like Mark Miller, I think maybe had that connection.
Was on staff.
There you go.
Ever in a
That's
day.
probably what it was.
He still hangs out. I know
Yep.
Miller Smith. I know that man very well. So yeah, Mark would have been the one that probably drove that.
I think now that you say that. Yeah, when you say Goodchild, I remember that name popping up.
Yeah, that Cal sounds familiar too.
Shout out to Cal. He nominated our dad, Jim. He's in the Iowa High School Hall of Fame now because Dad ran the chain crew at Benton for like 40 years.
His 40th year this year, and it's his last.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Our athletic director at the time, when I was a freshman, Dad would be up in the stands just yelling his you-know-what off, just going nuts. And the AD at the time said, if I can't get you to shut up, I'm going to put you to work. And he says, I'm going to give you the best seat in the house. You're on the chain gang from here on out. And Dad ate it up because he couldn't say anything. I'll tell this high school story. There was one time I was at running back. It was my senior year. Had a little pitch sweep. I headed for the corner, and Dad was on the down box. He was on like the 2-yard line. And I dove for the pylon. And my feet went out of bounds because some kid hit me. And my feet went out of bounds. I took the football and I smacked, as I was flying by, I smacked the pylon with the football. Rolled up, came up with it. That's touchdown. And I know it. You know it. Brian knows it. Jeff knows it. Nick knew it. My dad definitely knew it because he was standing right there. I stand up and the official had this stunned look on his face. I don't know what to do. His feet and body were completely out of bounds, but I don't know what to do. So he marked me out at the 1. And I was like, the ball hit the pylon. and Dad's standing right there. And I go, Dad, the ball hit the pylon. And Dad was sitting there, don't say anything. And afterwards, he came up to me, he says, I blew that call. I panicked. I didn't think you could do that. I'm like, oh, that's all right. You cost me.
My very first game, my sophomore year starting running back, was against Dyersville Beckman, against Chris Knipper. They had a good team. And speaking of running backs, Knipper played running back. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Huge.
And a huge running back. There, you can look at film. There's one where he was literally tracking like 3 of us down the field because he was so huge. But I remember coming up 165-pound weak corner, and I came up and I had figured out if I got low on the big guys, I could typically take them out. And I had done pretty well with that up to the point. So I went up to Knipper to take him out low. And he stuck his knee in my helmet. I swear to God, I went back 5 yards when he hit me. And then that same game, it was probably Knipper again. I don't know. But Dad's doing the chains, and I run like a play outside, and I got lit up. Like somebody hit me big, and I got thrown out of bounds, and my eyes were as big as can be. Like, holy shit, that was a big hit. And who steps right over top of me? Dad doing the chains. Get up off the ground. Don't let them see you, showing the effects from the hit. So again, like this is the stuff I'm trying to download into my 9 and almost 7-year-old, but I don't know if I'll go about it the right way or not. We'll see.
That's a good way to
40
get a
years.
good seat for the game, though. It's an amazing spot, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I stayed there 40 years.
Wow.
Shout out to Kathy Buch. She birthed us all. I always feel like she gets the short end of the stick with this stuff whenever we have these. She's the one that fed us. She's the one that got the 15 gallons of milk at the grocery store all the time. And she was a tough lady herself, old German lady.
You want to talk about knowing football? That lady talks cover 2. I think should have rolled that corner up more often on the other side.
Absolutely.
How you weren't sending your weak side linebacker during that? I'm sitting there, I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Wow.
She knows, she knows football.
Oh man. Back the day that they filmed right out of the press box that was right there, and our mom and our Aunt Wendy, they sat right underneath the press box, and you could hear our mom saying, "That's a hold! Call the play!" Definite football family.
And the amount of times that they spent in the bleachers, I can't imagine. Like with all my games, high school and college, my brother's games, like just the amount of time they spent on a bleacher seat was just astronomical.
Our dad couldn't care less about baseball. He wouldn't show up to one of our baseball games if it was the state. None of us played high school baseball, but man, every single time Doug Darren and I had the pads on, Jim and Kathy were there.
Awesome.
Yeah, my family hit pretty much every game of mine. I think they went back and forth. One weekend was Oregon, the next weekend was Penn State. They just, every weekend they were like high school games. They'd drive the motorhome. It was like, super supportive. It's crazy to think about the games without that, right?
More so with you, and then add a sister in there and everything.
Three of us boys and one sister for sure.
Our mom and dad, Jim and Kath, would talk about they would go to Darren's games on a Friday night, wherever it was in Iowa. And as soon as his game was over with, away game, home game, whatever, they'd pack up their car and they'd drive to Michigan to go watch me play Michigan State. They'd take off, drive all through the night. And a lot of times they didn't have money pouring out their ears. They'd sleep in the car for 3, 4, or 5 hours, get up, go somewhere, get breakfast, get coffee, and they'd be right at the game. And then after the game, they would finally go to a hotel, shower, and get some sleep, and then drive home the next day. Wow. Which, that's just straight dedication by the parents too. It's admirable of just what they did to go do it. I was like, Mom, Dad, you don't have to go. And they're like, do you not want us there? Oh, want you there? I'm just saying you don't have to go to this level. And they're like, oh, we want to be there. I'm like, then all right, go be there. So they like me around.
But I'm getting a taste of it now. Like I've coached my sons in flag football. It's a blast. You like watching every little teeny stage of their development. Not a soccer guy, I can assure you of that. But Harry had a really good year in soccer and a really good team that he was playing on. And I told our other brother the other day, I'm like, I guess I'm to the point where I could watch my kids play chess at this point. If there's anything that they're doing and they're being competitive at it, it's a blast to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait for my daughter to get old enough to do some of these things.
Before you know it.
And I think the other thing we've heard from the guys that didn't have that family support, to me, that's just unfortunate, but also it's like, how are you able to overcome, like, it was just such a luxury to have supportive parents. And then they sometimes said their parents didn't make any of the games and stuff, and they could still like get motivated and perform and stuff. And to me, it's just like, I'm so impressed with the ability. They're thousands of miles from home and they're just showing up and performing. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know, like, I needed that support. No, your parents are on the stands and stuff. And so it's just really impressive to hear some of the guys deal with that, living from New Jersey, Texas, Florida.
Yeah, just an elite level resilience. Yeah, it's just like you're away from home. You're like huge games, like all that stuff, right? You don't get to come out after the game and see your folks and that part. But I guess, yeah, it's a big family, I guess, to some degree too, right? A lot of my parents knew a lot of guys, and that whole situation where it was like a extended family too.
Yeah. And Nick, I bet you did it. I know Doug and I did it, where if there were dudes whose parents lived a long ways away, they became a part of our family on Iowa football weekends. One of my best friends to this day, Henry Polio, his family, he came from a tight family, don't get me wrong, but they're in Jersey and they couldn't make it for games. So Henry was with us every single time. Then we had upgraded from the ground round to the Coralville Sports Column at that point, but he was always with us. And not to get corny, but it's a Hawkeye family. I really do think it's a family, and families don't always get along. That's the theme that I guess I'm trying to talk to there. But you see your teammates afterwards, like at that reunion 4 or 5 years ago, and even the ones maybe you didn't get along with, great. It was great to talk to them. And then at this point, you're laughing about the stuff that happened 20 some years ago.
And I even remember Matt Hughes' dad, right? Matt Hughes' dad was a coach for many years. And so he'd have the right thing to say afterwards. And you're, oh, that helped me probably more than what my parents told me, right? Or whatever else was like asking or talking about. Like, just let it go. And you're like, can't let it go.
Go. I can't.
And that's one thing I can tell my son the same thing 714 times and it doesn't get in. He hears it from another dad, or even especially from an older, different teammate, then it clicks. I like to think the other times I've tried to say the same thing to him helped it get through, but that's how it goes sometimes. People learn stuff at their own rate.
Yeah, for sure. Doug, so we talk about your playing career?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I redshirted, and I spent a year on the scout team with Mike Stoops, who was the graduate assistant at the time. The Mike Stoops.
This is 88?
This would have been the fall of 88, yes,
Yeah.
Brian.
Okay.
And Stoops used to have this saying. He's like, you guys that stink, get in. You guys that suck, get out. That's what he would say to us. And we just got treated like dirt. Mike Stoops just hated everybody. Would just pick on me relentlessly. You think you're going to make it? You're so skinny. You're not good enough. He was just relentless on top of me. This was going against Chuck Hartlieb at quarterback, obviously marvelous, at tight end, and Travis Watkins at receiver. Mike Saunders was then coming up through it. He was a receiver, kind of running back, and they split him out, did stuff with Mike as he was coming up. The next year I got to play, and we were a bad team that year. About halfway through the year, I was backup corner to Merton. Back then, we did pure wide field corner and short field corner. Wide field corner was generally a little faster, and short field corner a little stouter. They put me at wide field corner behind Merton. About halfway through the year, it starts to click for you. It's amazing when people say it starts to click. And I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get this now. You start understanding combination routes. You start recognizing stuff that you never saw in high school because I was playing free safety or whatever, but you just didn't see it. While I was on scout team also, I was the punt returner. And so they moved me over on my freshman year at wide field corner. By the end of the year, I think there's 5 games left. Anthony Wright was the short field corner captain, great dude from Texas. They were never going to bench him. And so they would let him start. And then I'd go in for the rest of the game. And Anthony was so cool. He'd come out of that first series. He'd go, Booker, You need any help? You need any advice? I'm just going to be over here chilling. And I'd go in and I'd play the rest of the game. We got to mix it up pretty good. And so that was my freshman year. And the last game of the year against Minnesota, I ended up being the defensive MVP and hustle MVP. I got both of them. I caused a fumble on Daryl Thompson, All-American running back from Minnesota, knocked him sideways on a play, and I had some good plays that I got in, and they were like, you're not coming off the field next year. So I knew going into my sophomore year, I was going to be the guy. But they did not want me to stay at corner. They wanted me to go to free safety. And because strong safety was pretty much relegated to Brian Wise, Jason Olenczak, just incredibly talented guys there. And so they wanted me to get back to free safety, be a little faster. And then I was trying to be a punt returner because I'd done it in high school, done it as scout team. And I always loved you guys, the punters, because in the first part of the year, when you're catching the punts in the Eastern Iowa Conference and Willamette Conference, slightly different when these punters can consistently put spin on the ball. And you kind of watching it, you're like, oh, the tip's going, this one's going over, and you know when to back up. And then when it goes up too high, you're like, oh, this one's going to come straight down, almost away from you. And you're trying to judge this and learn it. So as I'm going through our sophomore year in the preseason, remember how they chart everything, right? You chart how he caught it, did he bobble it, good punt, high punt, how did he handle it? Everything was charted. And the offensive coaches wanted nothing to do with the defensive guy back there catching them. They abhorred it. They were just pissed at me that I was even trying to do it. And yet, by the end of the preseason, I had hardly dropped a punt compared to everybody else that had bounced them off helmets, ground. They let them all hit, do all this. I caught basically every punt, and they reluctantly gave me the job. And Bill Brazier, God rest his soul, wonderful coordinator for us for all those years. And Bobby Elliott was very encouraging. And they would sit there, and Bill would go in his Texas drawl. This actually works out. Just take a free safety and just have him back there. Just go catch it. If we got punt safe, we just take you back. And so I was punt returner for a few games. It almost broke a couple of them. We didn't have a lot of returns set up, but I almost broke one early on. Iowa State caught a bunch of them. And then I dropped one against Miami that Jeff mentioned earlier. To this day, just drives me effing crazy.
Sorry, didn't mean to bring that up.
Yeah, it's there.
I'm gonna have a nightmare about that one tonight.
I would have brought it up myself. So it was just it's a mistake. Things happen. And then I just played free safety the rest of the year. And the last game of the year, it's an interesting story that went on. Jeff Anela from Wisconsin had become the punt returner. And we were playing against Minnesota in the Dome. Jeff, were you at this game? Nope. So we were playing against Minnesota, and if we won, we automatically went to the Rose Bowl, because that year we'd beat Illinois, at Michigan State, at Michigan. We'd beat them all. Lost to Ohio State at home on a last-second play that I had got knocked out in the game. That was against Robert Smith. I got knocked out earlier in the game with a shoulder injury, and the guy that went in for me, he just didn't see the reps that week. And earlier in the week, the play that they ran to win the game, I knocked it down. And he wasn't in the right spot. It was a reps thing, just how important reps are to see it and recognition. We led the entire game. The only second we didn't lead that game was the last one against Ohio State at Kinnick. And after the game was over with, Bobby Elliott looked at me and was like, he didn't blame me by any means. It was just I think you would have been in there, you would have knocked it down. So then we go to Minnesota, and we have to win, and we're into the Rose Bowl, but we could lose as long as Ohio State upset Michigan. So coming down to the end of the game, we're down. And I had been knocked out the week earlier, and I wasn't even supposed to play. I wasn't even going to suit up because I knocked out my shoulder. But I was going to chiropractor, get my neck adjusted, and then I could do stuff for a few hours. I didn't even really warm up. But it comes the end of the game, Jeff had broken his wrist, and they start going down the line on guys to go out and catch the punt fourth quarter, and they go down the line and they're just asking everybody, gotta go catch a punt. Nope. Go catch a punt. Nope. I'm not going out. I don't catch punts. Nobody would go do it. And so I go, I'll do it. And the trainers were like, you aren't even cleared to play. And I'm like, I'll go get it. I'll go do it. Last punt I had caught was in Miami and I didn't catch it. So I'm like, I'll go do it. And they're like, you just got to fair catch it. I'm like, I'll fair catch it. I ain't going to get hit. I don't feel good anyway. So I go out there and the ball's not even barely off the punter's foot. And I'm already waving for fair catch. Ball comes down. I catch it clean. Boom! I get obliterated by a Minnesota Golden Gopher. Smokes me. Fights break out. People are going berserk. And I am laying on the ground going, what freight train just hit me? My helmet is smashed onto my face. I couldn't even get it off my head. So I go running over to the sideline thinking, euphoric how great this is. And they're like, roughing the punter. Offsetting penalties, go do it again.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I can't even get my helmet off. And so two linemen got on the side and they popped my helmet off. And the trainers are trying to fix my face mask because it had bent on my head. The guy hit me so hard. I kept the helmet because it was so marked up how hard this guy hit me. So they're screaming at me, we got to get this helmet done. And they're not going to get it done. And they're like, what size head do you have? This day was like, I had like a 7 and 3 or something like that.
Too bad you couldn't use my helmet over my shoulder here. It's barely got a nick on it. It's in great shape.
Because I got a small head. And they're yelling at me up and down the line going, anybody got a 7 3/8? Some freshman lineman comes over with a full face mask. I got one. And they
Oh, no.
So I put it on and they rip the chin strap off my helmet, put it on mine. And I go, where's my mouthpiece? And they go, it's still on the 30-yard line where you spit it out when you got smoked. So I go running out there and knock it off and throw my mouthpiece in with a full face mask. And they punted it again and it went out of bounds. So that was it. But it was a hell of a ride to get that. That 90s team, that was a good football team. I just don't think that team gets nearly enough credit. We could run the rock. We had Nick Bell, Tony Stewart, Mike Saunders. That people don't even understand. Mike Saunders is in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Matt Rogers could spin it. Danon Hughes was a heck of a receiver. Sean Smith was a receiver. And John Falloon. Oh, and then the tight ends. Jeff, favorite player of all time, Michael Titley, Alan Cross, Matt Whitaker, now high up in our government. And then our O-line was a bad man pajama line with guys that went to the league. Mike Devlin, he played in the league. What, he played 10 years? Still coaching for the Texans.
And
Scott
it's just
Davis got to try out. Rob Baxley. We had dudes.
When people start talking about the all-time Iowa teams, I understand that the 1990 team isn't going to be like the first couple teams that people mention. Like they're going to go to 85. They're going to go to 02, 09. But like 1990 was a good team. I feel like it doesn't get enough credit. I feel like Matt Rogers doesn't get enough credit. Like people talk about, like Matt Rogers in today's game where quarterbacks are expected to use their feet, would have been a freaking weapon.
We ran the option with Matt Rogers. And the dude put the ball where it needed to be. He was smart as hell. He knew what he was doing. Great leader, terrific dude on top of it. He could escape. His throwing motion doesn't run, but he reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers, the way he moves around a little bit and can go in the pocket. Then you go on the defensive side of the ball, and we had guys up front that got after it. Matt Ruin, Jim Johnson, Rod Davis, our DNs, Leroy Smith. He was a consensus All-American. He doesn't even get mentioned. The dude was fast and made tremendous plays all year long. Merton Hanks in the DB, Jason Olenczak, Carlos James is in that mix. Jeff Nelson, Ron Gator, Brett Bielema, another roommate of mine. Brilliant guy, hardly played that year as a sophomore. He didn't play until his junior year, but he was ever smart. We just had some guys.
Linebackers.
Linebackers, my God. John Derby. Oh.
Derby, yeah.
That guy
was awesome. I love Derby.
He was a dude. Mel Foster,
Yeah.
Teddy Joe Staley.
He was awesome.
We had some guys that could just play. We could run the ball. We could play action pass. Our defense, I believe, led the Big Ten in turnovers that year. I believe we led the Big Ten in fumbles. It recovered in interceptions. I'm pretty sure we led it all the way through from start to finish. We stopped the run. Nobody could run on us. You had to throw a little bit. And even then, we had some pretty good DBs that could play. It was just a shame the way, what nobody realized about 1990, that team lost to both of the co-national champions at Miami and at the Rose Bowl against Washington. And Washington, they co-shared the 1991 Natty together, and we played them both. To this day, I'll tell you right now, Washington would have kicked the living dog out of Miami, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They were better. That was a way better team. But then to go into Michigan, beat Michigan at their place on homecoming, and they just lost the week before, who does that? So we were a good team. We were legit, and we were hungry. We were a really hungry team after the year before. And then next year we turned around, we arguably had every bit as good a year.
Good.
And I'll throw in, I just remember plays, right? Because I'm 9, 10 years old or whatever, 11 years old. So I talked about the one bad one. The good one was Doug against Michigan just lit up Desmond Howard. You can find the highlight on YouTube. It's a good one. So that was when my friends were at school saying, dude, that was awesome that your brother blew up Desmond Howard. He went to win the Heisman next year. So just to bring those things around full circle.
Yep. That was a highlight. And then it made the front page of the Detroit Free Press. So that made it even better. But yeah, we had a good team. We had good guys that cared.
Illinois game, 1990 Illinois, right? They were number 5. You guys go in there and just blew them out.
Destroyed them.
Shout out to my podcast partner, Big Kurt. Who's a diehard Illinois fan, and he says to this day he's still scarred by the 1990 game. It's the first game he went to as a little kid was Iowa, Illinois. Illinois is ranked. He was feeling good. And he goes, it was over by halftime.
So I'll tell you a little insight on that game. And Nick Bell was a bit of a front runner. The O-line and everybody knew that Nick Bell had to get off to a good start. If Nick Bell got off to a good start, it was going to be a long day for the defense. But if you tackled Nick, and we knew this from spring ball, if you tackled Nick hard early, it was going to go your way. And I was standing next to Greg Brown. His dad was the legendary coach at City High for years and years and years. Yep. And Greg Brown and I are standing next to each other, and Nick goes for 25 on the first carry. And Brownie's standing next to me. He goes, we're going to win.
Yeah.
It was over. We just absolutely boat raced those guys. We killed them. It's really crazy what we did to them, how hard we shut down their run game. They had no chance. Verduzco had to throw, and let's not act like he was that great of a quarterback to begin with. But his only guy he could throw to was that obnoxious Sean Wax, who was a freak of nature, but what a jerk that he was. But mouth that never stopped running. But it was a great game. When they talk about team effort, whole team, and everybody contributed. Special teams, a fake field goal play, kickoff team had some great plays. Jim Hyzak punted probably the best game, knocked one out the 5. Defense, we got after hard with those guys.
The one thing I would add is I think we're all getting tired of the Iowa offense jokes over and over again. I'm sure we all do it as old guys. You start looking up highlights on YouTube, and you can find highlights or just football games of that 1990, 91. Doug's team won 10 games that next year. Those were fun ass offenses that Iowa ran 1990 and 91. So didn't always look like this. Those teams back then were running some cool stuff.
When I was coaching, I coached my son's 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade team. And my son was a quarterback, and teams would try to run these spread offenses. And the kid can't throw 10 yards. How are you running spread? So I would run power I and split backs and stuff like I ran basically Iowa's offense. I was in my 40s, I think, when I was coaching. This young kid was like mid-20s. And we just put a whooping on him. We did boots with my son, and we ran an offense that I went against. And this kid goes, where did you come up with this offense? I've never seen anything like it. I'm like, all right, you've never seen split backs? I mean, the kid had never seen it. And I'm sitting there, and all I was really trying to teach, I wanted my offensive lineman to get off the ball. And if they're in a stance, I wanted fly off the ball, get off the ball. I would just get off the ball, attack. And you can't do that if you're just always passing and passing. I wanted to teach a power run game, and I had the personnel to fit it. People thought it was mesmerizing, which is the question for you guys. Does it ever come back?
Heck yeah. Absolutely.
And
by the way, shout out to Bill Snyder. he was the one running that. You want to talk about a coach that knows what he's doing.
Back through the counters that we used to run, reverse options, spin out option. There was some great plays to bring Dana in motion and against the cover 3 and sneak him in behind everybody. There was some brilliant stuff that Snyder came up with, and we ran. So
Danon actually mentioned in his interview, I don't know if he returned kicks at Iowa. I don't think he did. So when he got to the Chiefs, though, that was his first job, and the first game was Monday Night Football. And he said as soon as it hit the punter's foot, he started waving for fair catch. And he said,
Damon was one of the guys that didn't want to catch that Minnesota punt. I'll tell you, I know they went to him to try and do it. And I'm like, dude, you got to learn to do this, isn't it?
A different Danon memory was the next year when they destroyed Minnesota in a snowy game, and he scored a touchdown and did a snow angel in the end zone. That's like a iconic Iowa football.
One of the most brilliant plays in Iowa history. It's on a touchdown, and that's right out of his playbook. D Nice was amazing. Receiver.
I think that was my recruiting trip, because that was 91, I think.
Yeah. Minnesota. Was it really? Yeah. Oh, you saw it. Oh, that game was wild. The day before, we were in shorts in Kinnick practicing. Shorts. Went to the Holiday Inn, woke up the next morning, we had 16 inches of snow in the Holiday Inn parking lot.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's one of the classics. All those are classic games.
It's amazing. You were talking about trash talking. So did you talk a lot of trash, or who was the trash talker on your team?
Trash talking backfired for me. As soon as I tried to say something, I'd say something stupid. So it just didn't come out right. The trash talkers, Mel Foster, pretty hard to shut his mouth up, and nobody's talked back to him. If you got Mel going, he'd let it rip. He could get it going. The guy that would never shut up was Sean Smith, wide receiver, a JUCO guy, like California, and then Dana would let it rip too. It was pretty good. But then go to the offensive line. The guy that never shut up was Mike Devlin. In their face, and Devlin go wreck him the next play too. He was bad, man. Jason Dumont talked some trash himself. Mike Wells did a little bit of spouting off. That was a little bit shocking for Wellesley, but Wellesley was just another worldly human. He didn't make any sense, but the guy just didn't add up that somebody could be built like that and do what he did. We were pretty beat up. Our senior year, we had lost a lot of guys. Bielma got hurt. Nelson got hurt. A very disappointing senior year. We had no D linemen left. We had no offensive linemen left. And all the guys we needed to have, they just weren't ready. Physically, just weren't ready to go against the big guys in the Big Ten. And when Jason Olenczak has 115 tackles and the season's not over with, and I have 112 at free safety, you're not doing real well when you're up front. So it was brutal. But yeah, it didn't work for me. Couldn't do it.
Jeff, how did Titley become your favorite tight end?
He was really cool to me. Because again, you're 9, 10 years old, but he walked up to me when it was like a summer thing, Doug, I don't even remember. And he had like headphones on, he was jamming out. I was like, oh man, this guy's so cool. And he walked up to Doug, Darren, and I. So Doug's like 21, Darren's like 17, I'm like 13, okay? And he goes, Book, and he points at Doug, Little Book, and he points at Darren, and he goes, that must mean you a pamphlet. It was awesome. And then when he would score touchdowns or come up with a big play, he would do this little shake thing, and he would walk with his arms like in his hands low to the ground, and he would do this like funky little walk thing. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I see my own kid, like that's the stuff that like he gravitates to. It was like when players do something cool and they like dance a little bit, That's the stuff they like. I was certainly no different when I was that age. And I want to say this too. I brought this up to Scott Docterman on Twitter one time. As far as underrated, really good Iowa football teams, 1996 might be the most underrated football team in Iowa history. Certainly one of the best football teams that didn't make it to the Rose Bowl. So I didn't have anything to do with it, but shout out to you two. I just wanted to say that.
That was a good team.
Yeah, got that weird Tulsa loss in there that kind of threw a wrench in it. I was so confident we were going to go back to Rose Bowl. I thought, because that was the pattern, right? If you stayed 4 or 5 years at Iowa, you got to the Rose Bowl. That was the pattern. And that was going to be the next time, right? The last chance. So we were the first ones that didn't get to go to the Rose Bowl if you made it all 5 years. But we were convinced we were going to get there.
I didn't know that. I know that you guys were serious. I remember that right when we got there. And I would say the biggest difference between the 96 and 97 team was the 96 team was tougher. That was just a super, super tough team.
You had some like guys that just, stuck with it. Like Ennis-Inge was just unstoppable.
Vernon.
Just at the end, Vernon.
Debo.
Legit.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And he had so many weapons to go to.
Shout out to Matt
97.
Doug had Derby and Melvin Foster. We had Matt Hughes and Vernon. It was like they're both cut out of that same mold.
Just dudes. The guy that I want to talk about a second, though, that blew my mind was
Tom Knight. I knew you were going to say that.
Tommy Knight is in our freshman camp, varsity camp, was there. So all the older guys there. And the first time Tommy Knight backpedaled and did all this stuff, I'm standing next to Coach Elliott, and I thought I was a pretty smooth little backpedaler myself. And then I look at Coach Elliott, and I'm like, what was that? And he goes, that's what we call NFL.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that kid is amazing. So fast forward a month, and we play in the Kickoff Classic out in New Jersey against North Carolina State. Tommy gets in a little bit. And then the next week, we are playing Miami at home under the lights. But we played a ton of man free, and Tommy was in. And he more than held his own. He held his own. And we are sitting in a meeting the next day or on Sunday doing film study. And I think Bobby Elliott said, hey, I think we got to wish somebody here is having a birthday. Is it today or tomorrow? Tommy's, it's tomorrow. And we're all going, wait, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 17. I turn 18 tomorrow. And we're all sitting there going, you're freaking 17? And Chris Green, my roommate from Marshalltown, goes, man, when I was 17, all I was thinking about was how far I could get up my girlfriend's shirt. And Tommy is playing against Miami. And he was that good.
When it was Iowa's camp before my senior year, and maybe it was before my junior, I can't remember. And Tom Knight was helping. He showed up at the camp, and everybody was like, oh, dude, Tom Knight. So Coach Elliott was running the camp, and T. Knight was sitting there twirling his keys on his finger like this. And he was just like watching practice. And I was just watching, like, oh, that's cool. Like just watching Tom Knight do anything. And then Coach Elliott was like, T. Knight, why don't you come here, show us this drill? He's like, all right, coach. And he had just like mesh shorts on with like a drawstring. So he tied his keys up through the keyhole and just tied them onto a string of his shorts, just because he didn't have any pockets, and he just put them on his keys. And then he was backpedaling. His keys were jingling. He was going through things. I tied my keys up in my drawstrings of my shorts all the time for like months and months after that, because I was like, anything that dude does, like that's what I want to do. But I just remember him running, and I swear he didn't touch the ground. Like it was like he just whooshed over the field. He didn't ever really touch it. That's when you realize there's good athletes, there's great athletes,
and then there's first round draft picks.
Yeah. Top 10 picks.
Top 10.
I believe it's 8.
I guess he was just so smooth. I knew he was a good athlete. I guess wow, that was pretty easy for him to do that.
Yeah.
Change of direction was nothing for him.
Did he end up getting matched up against Miami's like top receiver, Copeland, or did it was on opposite sides? Or I couldn't remember. In my mind, I remember like how is he going to compete as a true freshman against this #1 wide receiver?
Even a problem.
Yeah, and it was like he held his own. I remember, and it's like, holy cow, that's unreal. First of all, he's playing because he's the only one in our class played that year.
He had to be on the field.
Yeah,
we didn't have enough depth. We had some guys get hurt and leave and didn't pan out, and we had to have a guy like that come in, and he was fine. Yeah, he put him up against whoever. He was wide field corner, #1 wide field corner, and in our defense back then, it was the hardest position to play. You were on an island 90% of the time, and he did it.
Compare him to Merton Hanks. Were they similar? I don't know, when was Merton drafted? A little bit later.
He slipped into the 4th or 5th round. He ran a terrible 40 time and slipped hard. But Merton was 6'4" and had size like 13 feet. Didn't make any sense, but he could pick him up and put him down. Merton had good ball skills, obviously those long arms, long neck. Everybody saw that. And Murdy could change direction like nobody's business. He was a smooth backpedaler, turn his hips, great feet, could do all that stuff. And he typically he was wide field corner. When you're wide field corner, that's in our defense back then, that was don't get beat, get up and tackle them. Same thing with free safety. They wanted the strong safeties to make the plays. Free safety, stay back, don't get beat. I wonder how many times Bobby Elliott told me, don't get beat over the top, I'll lose my job. Don't get beat over the top. We can't give up the big play. That was our thing. Come up, make the tackles. These offenses are going to mess up. Come up, make the tackle, and stop them. They'll mess up. They'll jump off sides. They'll have a holding penalty, and we got them. They're punting. That was half the theory of Brazier and Fry back then. Don't get beat over the top. Yeah, that's kind of how we were coached. So,
yeah, it's interesting is when we've gone through some of these things, we talk to people about how the theories of coaching, it was basically like play lights out. We'll try to do some trick plays. We'll do some mind games. And it was like a consummate underdog, sort of. It was like we just went in like a fist fight every time, and we're going to just outlast them. Or at least feels that way.
I feel like we're still doing that, minus the trick plays. Fry always had them. Fry loved the trick plays. And part of it was he did it for fun because he knew when that worked, what a lift it was. Guys were just like, man, we got their asses on that trick play. And it was so fun. And guys loved practicing it. And it was a big uplift to a team when you'd finally run a trick play and hit it. And it was a big deal.
One thing I would ask Brion and Nick is if you ever see lists on Twitter, like D linemen or like ranking all-time guys and stuff like that. I'm always wondering how Jared DeVries is at the top of these like D lineman lists. Cause like when you look at sacks and tackles for loss, his numbers are off the charts. And sometimes I just feel like, how has that been forgotten about over the years of Iowa football and Big Ten football? It's not just Iowa football. You look up his stats, Big Ten, they rank all time. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that one before.
He interviewed him, which I was surprised he came on, to be honest. He was like one of those quiet guys. I just basically remember him running guys down. I was like, how fast? He was like, oh, I was a decent athlete. I was like, okay, no bullshit, man. And he's like, oh, I ran a 4.6. And I was like, oh, of course you did. Because I was like, I just remember him side to side, just like
100%.
There was nothing that was getting past him. And especially his first few years where they weren't keyed in on him, he was very strong. Like
his swim moves by the D line it was just so lightning fast how he could get around and down the line for tackles for loss. I remember it would have been right around his senior year. He's going against the twos, like preseason ones versus twos, like we're probably doing a scrimmage. And he just blew up 3 plays in a row. And he just turned to the sideline like, why do you even have me out here? And they just pulled him off. He didn't play the rest of the scrimmage. It was like he had nothing to learn against a backup offensive lineman at that point in his career.
And I think he wasn't overly big and overpowering. His stature, I don't think he was like, someone came up and like, oh man, this guy's going to kill me. And I think he was just so fast.
Yeah, his first step was, if a big quality Big Ten lineman could get his hands on him, he was probably neutralized, but that's the hard part. You had to get your hands on him and square. That was his game.
his hands were unbelievable. Did not even let that lineman get his hands off of him, and then his feet on top of it to get that guy off balance. Lateral.
I mean, he was a high school
destroyed
running
him.
back.
Yep.
So that's the skill set. And then turn him into a lineman. Did he redshirt? He did
His
redshirt.
redshirt
Okay.
freshman year, he was causing problems.
That was the Sun Bowl
He's-
where he was tearing it up. Yeah, he was
killing people.
blowing it up. Yeah, so you're like, okay, this kid's going to be really good.
I think Larry Blue was talking about Leroy Smith. Leroy was just a great athlete. He didn't even really know how to play DN. I think he just was like, yeah, I'm just going to go out and kick some people's asses.
There was times when he was at the end, he was supposed to drop, and he didn't. He rushed. So the quarterbacks are up there going, all right, based on this, that end's dropping. And then the quarterback snap and turn, and all of a sudden, Leroy's smoking the guy in the back, and the coaches are on the sideline going, Leroy's supposed to drop. Nice play. Good job. Way to go. That's an awesome play. And that was Leroy. But he was a running back, and he wasn't going to get on the field in front of Nick and T. Stu and Mike Saunders. He wasn't going to get on the field. And he was a good, big dude athlete. And they're like, we need help at the end. And when they moved him over to spring ball, he didn't know what he was doing. But by the end of spring ball, speed is speed, and being a football player, he had skill sets. All American.
Yeah.
And that's just the beauty of football is I didn't want my boys in hockey. The amount of technical and time and money that you have to spend to that sport. Baseball, nothing against these sports. It's the same way. But with football, my senior year of high school, there was a kid that moved up from Arizona, never played football before, never even played organized sports, but he was 6'3" and could run like a deer, and he was our best receiver. You know what I mean? It's something to me that obviously perfecting the sport and hand positioning as an offensive line. Don't get me wrong, there's obviously amazing technical things. You guys are specialists. You're as technical as anybody has to be, but there's always a place on the football field for a dude that just shows up and has the athletic ability and the mindset to go get it.
Austin Wheatley was that guy, right? He'd played like 2 years, maybe, I think, showed up, and then he went to the pros, I think, for a couple of years.
Him and Zeron, underknown, amazing athletes at tight end. Just more guys that went through Iowa. Zeron was in the NFL for quite a while, too.
Any good Hayden Fry or Kirk Ferentz stories you guys like?
There was a game that we were playing against, I believe it was Minnesota, at home, and we were playing like ass. And Dan McCarney and Bobby Elliott came in hot, and they were throwing everything. Boards, chalkboards, whiteboards, shoes, helmets, footballs, chucking it at everybody. And everybody was ducking for cover. And Coach Fry watched it for a while and then just went, that's enough. That's enough of that. And he calmed them down a little bit, but it worked both ways. It was okay, we probably needed that, and that needed to get said. But that was it. It would always mesmerize me that those guys, with firing as pissed as they were, Coach Fry would say one thing like that, and they would snap back into attention because he was in charge. And there was no doubt that the gig was in charge. And when we were playing Colorado, my redshirt freshman year, and this was when Colorado was national championship caliber, Darius Hagan, they were legit dudes on that side of the ball. And Bernie Wyatt was the D-end coach. He brought in a lot of guys from the East Coast, and they were running that option, and our ends were just turning circles because they didn't know what to do. They'd lose contain. Now you're tackling the quarterback this time because we're in cover 2, and they would let the quarterback go and go get the pitch. They were never right. Like, the DNs were just wrong every time. And our DNs were great guys. They just were not doing it right. And Coach Fry comes running down the sideline and goes, Bernie, if I see one more Colorado player going around your DNs, your ass is fired. You're gone. Not 2 seconds later, pitch, whoosh, right around the end. Fry comes running down. Fired. You're fired. He fired him on the sideline about 5 times. And that's when you're sitting there going, wow, this is for real, man. This is for real.
I don't think you can appreciate it when you're a kid or in college.
Oh.
Those dudes are coaching for their life. Like, this is their career. You don't understand the weight of that, I don't think, when you're a player, which is probably a blessing.
You know how big a bonehead the team is, though. Your buddies are all the guys that are like, wait, they got to be in control of them. They got to let these guys go home and don't have anybody chaperone them? Okay. These are maniacs.
True. Like, they should barely be let loose in society.
Yeah, exactly.
In your whole career.
These people's parents have to be like, why did I let these kids go out of my sight? And then put a group of them together, and then it's like, okay, yeah, that's going to go.
Now there's 5 of them? Now there's 12 of them?
Are you going to put them all in an enclosed dormitory?
Yeah.
Other
on the same floor.
My quick ones were Coach Fry. You guys will remember that, but before you guys went to Penn State in '96, right? And beat Penn State. They call it Happy Valley. It's going to be a happy Hawkeye Valley by the time we leave. I remember him saying that. I remember Coach Fry coming up to me in practice like, Jeff, I love your daddy. He laughs at all my jokes. I remember him saying that to me. That cracked me up. And then with Coach Ferentz, I told this story on another podcast, but I think it's worth repeating. 2000 was my senior year, and it's pretty cool that Coach Ferentz will still talk about the 2000 seniors to this day. Every now and then he'll slip it in somewhere, like a iClub meeting or something like that. And anyways, he really wanted us to go to a bowl that year. He thought we were going to be good enough to make it to a bowl. And we got late enough in the year, we were mathematically eliminated for the bowl. And he dismissed everybody on the team from the team meeting except for the seniors, and he kept the seniors in there. And he broke down crying. Like Coach Ferentz, maybe not quite as emotional as he used to be, but he would back then. And he apologized to us for not getting to a bowl, which I just remember at the time, I'm like, I didn't even know that. It was cool that he even acknowledged it like that. And then the next year was the breakthrough. It was either the end of 2000 when we beat Penn State, coincidentally, and then definitely was a good team in 2001. And speaking of Iowa coach finding you and you don't know how, I'm living in my sad, disgusting Osseo, Minnesota apartment up here right after I moved up here after graduation. And I had a note in my mailbox thing in my apartment complex that said I had a package down the front office. And I go down to the front office and it's a bigger box, and I open it up and it's an Alamo Bowl watch that Coach Ferentz got and then sent to all the 2000 seniors with a handwritten note that said, Iowa got to this bowl game in help because your class of the work you put down. Maybe you guys have heard that story before, but that's who Coach Ferentz is. Like, this isn't an act. He doesn't broadcast these stories so that it helps with recruiting. He just does them because that's the dude he's always been. So still got the watch. It's beat up. I wore it all the time because it immediately became the nicest watch I owned at that time when I got it. But I still got it now, but where's the keepsake?
That story gave me chills before.
I don't think I heard that either.
You guys haven't heard that story? Oh, yeah. No.
I know the watches were dog shit, but
yes, absolutely.
My dad has like 4 of them. He's like, oh, thanks. What am I going to do with this crappy that probably broke 16
fossil.
years ago?
It was a fossil. It was
I
fossil.
even got a fossil,
It fell apart like a fossil pretty quick, too.
Don't feel too sorry for Jeff. He got all my crappy bowl gifts that I hated, and I gave it all to Jeff and Derek.
Yeah, that was always the Christmas present you got from Doug, was he would just pass down the water bottle that he got for the holiday bowl or the whatever bowl they were at.
We were asking Ennis-Inge that too, and he said, yeah, that's been his annual thing because he's been with so many different teams now as a coach. And he says, yep, every year, whatever team I'm on, everyone's getting new sports equipment from the new team.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Robert gives me shit because I'll have some mesh shorts from 25 years ago or some t-shirt from a bowl or a camp or something he went to with all these freebies. And I was like, I love the freebies. He'd be like, you want these? I'm like, yeah, for sure.
Free is the right price.
Yeah, exactly.
I think our dad wore that 1988 Peach Bowl like jumper, like a whole suit thing. It was the ugliest thing in the world, but he wore that thing for years.
I think my parents still have a stack of like starter jackets that they got somewhere.
Apex. Brion, Nick, we lived through the Apex era.
Those could
Well,
be
hey,
big collectibles.
You guys never had to wear pony shoes like we did.
Pony
Fair enough.
There were
Just
still
talking
some
about-
remnants laying around in lockers when I got there in '92. There was like
there?
you saw a couple pairs of ponies laying around. Maybe guys had kept them from the
Ugh.
year before, but yeah, I was glad that we at least went to Reebok maybe the next year.
To Reebok.
If you
Yeah.
ran a 4.6 normally, you ran a 4.7 in ponies.
Oh.
Those things did not live up to their name. It was quite the opposite.
Heavy. Guys would go out and buy their own shoes because those ponies hurt your feet so bad. That's how ridiculous it was.
But we were Apex and then into Reebok by 96. Reebok was legit. Those white shoes that would zip all the way up on the side. Oh, dude, those things were nice. You do got to give a shout out. I don't know if you guys have talked about it on the pod. I try to listen to as many as I can, but Coach Fry deserves some credit for AKA the wings, banana peels. He was honestly ahead of his time. He was trying to make a splash. I don't know if the splash worked all that great, but you at least got to give him credit for always trying to get that psychological advantage, whether it was in recruiting or imaging, anything like that. He gave it a shot at least.
Yeah.
He did, yeah. It was interesting when he tried to sell those to us too. He's like, "Oh, these things are awesome. They're high flying." And then we saw them. We're all like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Oh god!" And then people would talk shit to us, and you, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Don't know what to do about it.
You're right. I got to walk away. I can't say anything back to you because it's true.
But now Oregon's wearing uniforms that look like they got sprayed manure on them. And Florida had those god awful uniforms a couple years ago. Like people wouldn't bat an eye on it now.
Right.
Yeah.
I think our senior year, we had a choice or something, or they just decided they were going to end the contract or they went out of business or something. I don't remember the details.
I think maybe Coach Fry bankrupted them with the banana peels, but I think that was Apex. They were down.
But we were so glad when they brought back.
But those
more
Apex
classic
pants,
look.
those Apex pants with the broken up stripe that stopped halfway down your thigh. Oh man, those were the most comfortable practice pants I ever had.
I think we can all be confident of one thing. Ferentz will never bring that back for an old game or anything.
We'll throw back. All right.
Back.
Yeah, they did the reverse
Right.
gold jersey with the black wings on the
With
top.
some wings on it. Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch.
They
I don't know
were-
if that was
They're
intentional.
more classic wing scenario. They were
Yeah.
Nikes, right? Better looking for sure.
They were
They
cleaned
were
up
less
version.
less banana peel. It was a little bit better.
Truth.
That's true. Did you do anything after you're done playing? Did you pursue any football, pro days,
Nope.
NFL stuff?
Nope,
No.
didn't do anything. I got hurt and I went from being really fast to not that hurt. That was pretty much, and I was done. It was okay. I was going to play with Arena League. I was going to go do some overseas for a little bit, and I dislocated my shoulder in a tryout. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I am so sick of being hurt and beat up. I'm just done. So it was nice to be done. And then you just got to let your body heal. Play a lot of football. Some of these guys in the NFL that played for 15 years, they're just different. They're just horses. Just to be able to play that long and take those beatings, God, no way. It's amazing they were able to do it. No, that was about it. I like coaching. I got into coaching high school, did that for not full time, but did another job. The irony of the whole thing after I was done was Iowa coaches came up to two guys asking them to be GAs. One was Brett Bielema and one was me. And I didn't want to do it. And worked out for Brett. Brett did it. Brett's done some good stuff.
Yeah.
Doug's roommate in college was Brett Bielema. Darren's roommate in college was Chris Ash. One of my roommates was Lamar. So that was the trick. You just had to room with Buch at some point in the 90s. And
Take off your coaching career.
Yeah,
Your
you wound up
coaching
doing
career
great
from
things.
there.
Like anointing guys, you're like,
Yeah.
So it is ironic that all three of us had
And-
that level of roommates and look at
Yeah.
the level they're at. It's
Right.
And Beetle, as Doug knew him, and we lovingly call him on the Eyes on Big podcast. He was my position coach my last year at Iowa because I switched. I'm putting that in quotation marks to outside linebacker my senior year. My guess is that Brett Bielema had something to do with me being able to stay on the roster that year. It's nothing I've ever had confirmed, but Brett, if you listen to this, thanks, man. If that was you who kept me around, I definitely appreciate it.
Brett was going to be a college coach. That dude eat, breathed, lived. All he wanted to do was be a football coach. Smart guy, didn't have a lot of talent, but what he had, he did the most of, and took his body from 185 pounds to 300 and plus by the time he left. Went back down. At one point in time, after he graduated, and Jeff, I think he was coaching you, he weighed less than I did. I was 205, and I don't think he was 200. He weighed less than me, which is ironic. I got him by a little bit now, but he dropped a few. I saw him about a month and a half ago. He's dropped a lot, looking a lot better. So, yeah, I'm very happy for him.
I had to talk Illinois fans on the Eyes on Big podcast when he got hired. They're like, oh, this is a horrible hire. And my podcast partner, again, Illinois fan, and I got on, I said, I don't like this hire. Why am I saying that? Because I'm an Iowa fan, and he's going to make Illinois better, trust me. But I think he's even exceeded expectations for what they were going to do.
They just awarded him with a $7.2 million contract. So
not a bad gig if you can get it.
Yeah, doing well. I don't know if I could be away from the family that much. That's why I didn't think about getting into it. I guess I wasn't asked either, so that probably would have made a difference.
You didn't room with a book.
Yeah, there's that, Nick. If you would have roomed with us, you'd have had it.
Was it the pit? Did you live there? Either one of you live there, or Nick, or no?
We lived at the Ridge.
Not, yeah.
Ridge. You were at the Ridge. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we started the whole Pheasant Ridge scenario.
That came to a screeching halt at some point.
Yeah, I think when they wrote an article about Robert getting drafted second overall, and then he was like living in a low-income housing, that didn't go over well.
Nope. Should have kept that one on the DL.
But it was like one of those things when you couldn't work. The only time you could work was over the winter holidays, and my parents weren't shoveling cash my way.
It was crazy. That was what they did to us, where you're on full ride scholarship. I'm like, all of our time gets taken up by football. It's insane. Did you ever really track the hours that we spent in football?
It's exactly 20.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. This is how you fill out the card.
Yeah.
This is how many hours.
We had to fill it out, didn't we? That's funny to say that, yeah. Wow.
Now these kids, they definitely should get a piece of the pie, no doubt about that, but maybe not that much. Just doesn't seem realistic.
We just wanted another $100 or something. Like that would have been huge.
Yeah.
A little money to spend for a couple gallons of gas and a new shirt or something. Like, I wasn't asking for too much.
We needed shoes. We were wearing ponies for the love of Pete.
You had to go buy your own shoes.
And for me, I learned to not wear my issued gear to classes. I don't know if, Nick, you probably had a harder time pulling this off, but because I felt if the teachers knew you were on the team, they treated you like crap because they just assumed you didn't care about school or whatever. So I would try to hide my footballness by just dressing like a quote unquote normal student. So I would have to have normal clothes for that stuff too.
I think it was a mix. I think some teachers were like, oh, I understand the pressure you're under, and they were a little more understanding. And then, yeah, there was definitely the ones that were like, oh, you guys. And then we'd also get the other sports. There was some girls that were rowing. That was like rowing was just introduced to Iowa at that point, and they were like, you guys get new sweats and this and that. And I was kind of like, oh, I think we're footing the bill for them, not to rub it in. We're sharing the wealth at least. They were just mad at us because we'd get new ones every 3 months or whatever it was.
I had a TA at a class one time, walk in, sit down, and she gets up in front and goes, if any of you football players are in here, get out. You're failing. I got up and walked out.
Yeah,
I looked around and looked at everybody, and I'm like, is she serious? They're like, yep, get out. So I got up and left.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a teacher, every time I would try to talk, just cut me off in class. And then it was another football player who told me why. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Wow.
Oh, so that's why I'm going to get a D.
I probably deserved a D.
Yeah, I probably did too.
Jeff, do you want to talk about your podcast a little
Oh,
bit?
Yeah, certainly. We can wrap it up. Yeah, Eyes on Big podcast. We've been doing it since 2018, since before doing Big Ten podcasts were a thing. now they're everywhere. Boy, if you want a bad opinion on Big Ten football, just go find it. It's out there to get. But yeah, been at that time covering all 14 teams. Now it's unfortunately all 18 teams with the teams from the West Coast, but still having a lot of fun, doing a lot of interviews this summer with team specific podcasts. I think the plan is to still do 2 podcasts during the season, one to preview and one to post view. So anybody that's listening to this pod, we certainly talk about Iowa, but we talk about all teams. We take the gambling aspect into the podcast pretty often. It used to be something that nobody could even barely talk about. It's pretty open now, I think. So that's something that we lean into. But we really try to just concentrate on football. Like I started the podcast because I love the sport and we want to break things down. I've always loved Big Ten football, obviously, from a lot of the stuff that we've talked about previously on this podcast. So yeah, if anybody wants to take a listen, check it out. We're on iTunes and Podbean and Spotify and all the good platforms. So appreciate letting me plug it, Brian, and appreciate you the nice words you've always had for the podcast as well.
Yeah, it's great. I don't watch all the games. I watch the Iowa game and stuff, but I like to know what the other teams are doing. So like when they play us, I have an idea. So I appreciate like you guys running through it and summarizing the highlights and like, who's doing well and this team looks good and this team played like crap. And yeah, definitely the post view ones are the ones I gravitate toward.
Love it. Appreciate that.
Any YouTube in the future plans for you guys or no?
Yeah, it's a question we get all the time. And every time I ask, why do you YouTube? What do you get out of that? I still feel like I've never quite understood. Maybe I'm just that much of an old soul / dinosaur where I don't grasp it. But I think for the most part, people struggle enough listening to me. If they had to listen and look at me, that's probably too much for the audience. So I just try to keep it to the listening part of it.
I think it took me a second. I came across your podcast once and I was like, wait, I know this guy. I think it was like Jeffrey the Greek. I was like,
yeah, the Jeffrey the Greek thing is just a joke. You guys remember Jimmy the Greek?
Oh,
so I guarantee that there's 90% of the listeners of the podcast know who Jimmy the Greek was, but he picked games. Doug remembers this. I started a mass email like my second year out of Iowa when I was living in Minnesota. And I would just tell a funny story about probably something dumb I did like the weekend before or whatever. And then I would pick games. And I just started emailing it out to my brothers and cousins, couple buddies and stuff like that. And they just kept adding, hey, can you add my coworker on? I'm forwarding it to him. So it started out as a blog. That's how old I am. It was essentially a blog in email form. And then I was taking a leak at Kinnick. I don't know what year, 2006 or 7. And I had nailed what I thought the Iowa game was going to look like that day. And I'm taking a leak in those god-awful long metal urinals at Kinnick Stadium. And the guy next to me goes, dude, that Greek dude nailed it. This is exactly how this game is going. And I looked at him and I'm like, I'm Jeffrey the Greek. Is that what you're talking about? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, holy cow, like how many people I didn't know any idea who these guys were. I'm like, how big is this thing? So that's where quote unquote Jeffrey the Greek happened. And then it kind of morphed into Twitter and whatnot.
Nice.
He was on a heater for a while that was like, hey, whatever he's betting, just jump on and ride it out because it's like anything. You get hot for a while, and he was on a serious heater for a few years.
Yeah,
I was like, man.
I was unconscious. I had a guy DM me on Twitter that said he had won like $140,000 off my bets. And he was a big time Vegas bettor. And he's like, first of all, you're an idiot for giving these out for free. You should be behind a paywall. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens when I'm not that hot? And then he invited me out to Vegas. And I remember telling my wife, Britt, I'm like, either we're going to have a great time or he's going to slice my kidney out of my back. I'm like, what do you think? And I never took him up on the offer. But like Doug, all things come around. Last year I was cold as ice. That's just how it goes in the sports gambling world.
How much are you researching? What's the input into it? Is it a lot?
Yeah. So that's a good question. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I was just listening to another podcast and it's a professional gambler and he's going down analytics. And I totally get that. There's some of that stuff that I lean on. What I feel like the trick to do is to just focus on, I don't know, 14 to maybe 18 teams. You get insiders, you get dudes that pay attention to the team. You don't need the necessarily deep insiders. You just need people that listen or interact with the insiders. You guys know, like on a football team, a left guard goes out and nobody knows this on the surface, but the fans know that trap play that they run that just blows people open. It's now off the table. And like, why is the running attack not working? Because that guy's gone out for a couple games, their best edge rusher. If you get the sense of that, and then you realize that guy's coming back, and then that team's going against a team that's lost one of their guys, the line doesn't necessarily represent that. If you have that knowledge and you're like, I know that's a 9.5 point line, but my guess is that should be closer to 3 or 4 now with these tweaks that these people don't know about. That's where the value is at. That's how I've done it, is literally just watching the games and getting to know these teams. That's how I do it. I literally love watching it. I watch as much as I can on Saturday. I DVR every game. I rewatch them. I love it. I don't know if that makes me a weirdo or sick. And if you really get to know the teams, you can get a sense of how they're doing well or not so well.
So the nuance of players and matchups and stuff like that, then interesting.
100%.
You gamble yourself? Can we ask that question?
I tend to have some activity on weekends, yes. Shout out to the Fun Belt Thursday night games. Do you want to just turn a Thursday night game that you don't even know half the players? Now, those games, I don't know dick about. That is just purely to entertain myself that night. But yes, I have been known to throw a couple shekels down here and there.
We've always agreed that, yeah, like betting on Thursday night games that don't mean anything are like this is the best way to enjoy those for sure.
Absolutely. Warning, don't ever gamble past what you can afford. Don't be doing that stuff. My house and my wife and kids definitely come first, but there's usually a couple dollars left over to have some fun with.
Yes, we have to have a warning for the folks. It's funny.
Exactly.
If you have trouble with gambling, please call 1-800.
1-800. That's on.
These are adults. Do not try this at home.
Yes.
I love it. And Doug, tell us about Pave Drain.
I started the company, invented a product. I was working in the engineering community, and I'm not an engineer by trade, but I was out selling engineered systems after I got done with college, traveled around a little bit, and worked my way up through a company. And me and about 3 other guys, we had taken a company from about $3.5 million to $25 million in about 7 years. And we got bought out by a big corporate America. I couldn't take corporate America. I didn't like the reports of a report on the report of the report that drove me out of my mind. So I'm like, put your money where your mouth is. And I quit my very lucrative 6-figure plus job and all the stuff that went with it. Ventured out on my own August 1st of 2008. About 6 weeks later, the U.S. economy completely collapsed and imploded. As my dad said, nice timing, dumbass. And it sucked. I had to go back to corporate America for about a year and a half. And then I kind of relaunched it. I stayed with it, did some stuff, still pushed to find some investors. The problem is startup technology, nobody really wants it. And after everybody get burned in 8, 9, nobody wanted to touch anything. And it was scary as hell. Newborn baby. It was a brutal learning curve to get through. Barely paid myself, if at all, but somehow just limped along, got going a little bit, sold a few more jobs, started hitting on this state called Florida that really has a very high water table and sandy soils and need a product like this. And just started little by little hitting on jobs, getting one here, getting another one here, getting repeat customers, very fun to get. And build it up and sold a couple of franchises, got some money to do that, paid off some debt because you go into serious debt trying to get all this done. And little by little, then finally you got to shit or get off the pot and you got to go hire employees. And thankfully I got 2 hammers out there for me. One of them being the other guy in the Hawkeye uniform here. Thankfully, Jeff, how that company let you go is beyond me. I'm just thankful every day that those corporate clowns did what they did. And I got him. And I got another guy, was on an NFL roster for 3 years. Ryan Lee's his name. He was a guard. Steelers Rams and Saints. And so football background.
He definitely likes athletes.
I like jocks.
Not everybody, but
know how to quit. They just don't know what quit means. And so it's starting to work out. Like, we really got a good social media game started by somebody else, but we got a reputation around the country. We're definitely branded. Go into an engineering firm 5-10 years ago, ask anybody heard of pave drain, and nobody even raised their hand. Now you go in and anybody heard of pave drain, and almost every hand goes up. That's quite good. And got ourselves a huge niche that we're working on and dealing with. Jeff has specialized himself in the heated driveway business up in Minnesota. I always laugh when we're at a big national trade show and we display the heated stuff, even if we're in Louisville or one of the national spots. I sit back, I'm like, all right, watch Jeff go to work here. Those guys that sit up at the state fair, they're just selling stuff, except they're selling rags and sprays, and Jeff's selling a damn heated driveway. People are just mesmerized by pretty good little spiel.
Surfaces doesn't have to be
driveways. Just
there's a lot more surfaces you can heat going in and out of buildings
and stuff that we're getting into. And sometimes you just don't know where things are going to take you. But the old adage of you got to spend money to make money. Every dime that comes in, it goes right back out. I'm spending on something. It's just not time to take care of myself a whole lot yet, but it will be someday. And it's been a wild ride. Our sales cycle is what's daunting. Our sales cycle on the quick side is 2 years. The average is 3.5. The longest is, we got one right now that we've been working on for 12 years, and it's just about ready to go. It's huge.
Can you explain the product real quick?
What it is, it's the permeable block system. So the blocks themselves are not permeable, they're big. So a lot of people have heard of permeable pavers. They're very tiny. They weigh anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds. Pave drain, they're big. They're 12 inches by 12 inches, almost 6 inches thick, and they weigh in at about 50 pounds. Our heavy duty unit weighs about 65 pounds. So they're big, they're bulky, really engineered, let a staggering amount of stormwater into it. You can drive heavy equipment on it, cars, vehicular traffic, up to about 35, 40 mile an hour. So any concrete paved surface that's out there, we can replace it. So we're getting put in streets, gutter pans, parking stalls. We're also starting to replace detention ponds, which are just a diabolical waste of land and space. That math has to transition for us, and rules around the country have to favor us, and they're starting to really favor us. Anybody heard of an aquifer besides Jeff? Of course, Nick, anybody who's grown up on a farm or out in mid, everybody knows that these aquifers, and they're coming out saying our aquifers are in trouble.
Yeah.
We've sealed them off. We got traditional roads, traditional asphalt, traditional concrete paved roads. They don't let any water get in. And we're a component of letting a massive amount of that water get in.
Our cities are covered with impermeable surfaces. When it rains, rainwater has nowhere to go, except to sewer systems that struggle to handle the unprecedented strain. That's why we asked, what does your pavement do for you? Green technology has mostly failed to mitigate urban flooding and recharge aquifers. Green solutions look great on paper and may perform well at the start, but they disappoint quickly due to maintenance headaches, weak design, and their inability to handle intense rain events. The paved drain system solves these problems. For over 10 years, the paved drain system has proven effective for property owners looking to fix their drainage and paving challenges. The paved drain system is a simple yet unique solution that incorporates a patented arch design into large interlocking concrete blocks. The paved drain blocks are manufactured locally, available in several different colors, and are ADA compliant. When installed, gaps are left between the blocks for an unprecedented infiltration rate. Over time, debris will fill the joints, but maintenance is accomplished with vacuum trucks that remove the accumulated debris. Unlike other pavement systems, even when 75% clogged, the paved drain system still allows massive amounts of stormwater to infiltrate into the ground. With a properly designed and compacted open aggregate base, the paved drain system doesn't experience freeze or thaw heaving and can maintain its structure under extreme pressure. We also offer heated paved drain, which eliminates the need for salt. The heated system infiltrates melted snow back into the ground, preventing runoff, which won't become an ice liability for you or your neighbor. So think about it. What does your pavement do for you? Contact us today to see how we can help with your new or existing infrastructure challenges. And visit our website at www.pavedrain.com to see recent success stories. Pave Drain, the world-leading permeable paving system.
Mother Nature's been filtering that water, let it get down through the earth. Depending on where you're at, 5 years to 105 years for that water to get back down through these aquifers and let it all percolate down through. It takes a minute. So when you start looking at our country, how long we've been around, how long we've had paved roads, we've done a number to our environment. And so this is a product and a system that we manufacture in 40 different block plants around the United States and Canada, Hawaii, all over the place, all over Big Ten country, that we can get done and get the product in the ground. We've been installed on probably 25, 30 Chick-fil-A's throughout the Southeast. We got a couple engineers that jumped on board, just landed our 4th or 5th McDonald's parking lot. So some pretty big name brands that are utilizing us. And then on the private side and the public side. So it's a lot of dollars, a lot of money floating around out there on the private side and the public side. So anybody wants to pony up a little investment, give me a call. I might have an opportunity for a Hawkeye out there somewhere. We're pretty picky about who we partner up with, or at least I am. So thanks for allowing me to give that little spiel. But that's
awesome. What's the best way to reach out to you guys?
You can look up at the website. Phone number's on there, pavedrain.com, and
info@pavedrain.com. That will get to us.
But call or email me directly. I'll definitely take it like that. I cover upper Midwest all the way to the West Coast for my territories.
Call on engineers, or who are you calling?
GCs, developers, municipalities, engineers. Another way to describe it is a piece of land is a field, right? So for millions of years, the water soaks right through the field into the ground, right? Then humans get around. It's good for humans to build and prosper, but we turn it into impervious surfaces. You have to control the rate of that water. That's what Pave Drain helps these developments do. So a lot of times the developers, and especially municipalities with government work, we have to help them through that, learn them through the process of their own regulations, and then how we help them through the regulations. So that process there, you start talking to somebody, and 2020 is when I started, because I was furloughed, not because I was fired. I just want everybody to know that I was saying that.
Started with an
during the pandemic. You have to start with the education part, which could be an engineer or municipality or whatever, and then you just work through the whole sales process with them.
Bugger.
I know with all the paved surfaces, it collects all the crap and the oils and stuff, and then you're dumping in the rivers, or it's going through wastewater treatment, and then it has to be processed. So that cuts down a lot of that as well, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And it's filtering through an open graded aggregate underneath it. So the joints are not filled. Pavers, if you're familiar with them, they put rock or sand between the joints, between the gaps. Because how big we are and the way we interlock, we do not need that sand filled between the joints. We want as much water to get in as possible. Now, over time, is it going to fill up with some debris? Of course, it's going to have some filled up. But even then, those open joints are vertical. They can be vacuumed out, sucked out. There's a lot of equipment out there that can do it. When I first got started, a lot of it didn't exist. And now because of us, there's new equipment out there on the marketplace for purely vacuum purposes to suck out that debris. And then it's just street maintenance. It's easy from there. It's just keeping it open, but let a mountain of massive amounts of water get in. We've actually partnered with a company out of Milwaukee. It's got 3 PhDs on their staff that we can actually monitor how much water we are capturing on any given rain event, how long it takes to infiltrate through the soils and whatever soil types there are. And then you can give a report back to the city. They can post on a website to show just how many gallons of water we've infiltrated and captured on a single storm event. So it's a little bit of revolutionary stuff that we are doing with that type of projects.
And what percentage are you catching, roughly?
So a lot of times they talk about run-on ratios. So the amount of traditional impervious surface that runs onto us. So a lot of times it's bound to a 5-to-1, 6-to-1 run-on ratio, meaning 5-6 square feet of impervious surface, whether that's traditional asphalt, concrete, or roof running onto 1 square foot of paved drain. If you take a bigger run-on ratio, there's a lot of our storm events. We're capturing 100% of it. It's a staggering number to get that many gallons of water into a cross section or an area of paved drain. So it's a lot of water. There's soil mechanics that we've had to deal with as well in terms of saturated soils that we've never had a pothole ever, and we never will.
Wow.
Based on how we're designed. And so that type of stuff freaks people out because the engineers, you can't let the water get into cracks. They can't stop it from getting in. So definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I just said, if you can't let it get in and you're never going to stop it, why are you fighting it? Let it get in, and then emphasize letting it get in so you don't have to maintain it as often, and then redesign the base. And that's really all he did. And started to work. It takes a while. Engineers want to look at it, analyze it. I've had engineers up in Milwaukee where I was based out for a while. I had a guy come up to me this year. He's introduced it to him when I started about 15, 16 years ago. And he came up to me and he goes, looks like you've been right about this. I'm going to start using you now. Gee,
It's a
thanks.
long sale.
It's a long sales cycle.
Like, I'm almost dead. Thanks.
The good thing is he's retiring in a year too. So
Oh, great. Yeah.
that's the good news. Thank God he's out of there.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes. That's just a little bit of what we're battling. Now, the flip side of it is we've had engineers that put it in and just went, oh man, this stuff is awesome. Then they leave and go somewhere else and they do the sell job for you. So that is the other side of the coin. It just doesn't happen enough because engineers, like the rest of us humans, are pretty freaking stubborn.
Awesome.
They
Good luck.
don't
That's
need
great.
it. Harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's right.
Hey, guys, this was awesome. Thank
So
you.
much fun. Thank you
Yeah,
guys
this
so
was
much.
cool. I'm glad
Yeah,
it worked
it's,
out. I think it
for-
worked. It was nice.
Worked out great for the
For all
brothers.
the
and-
Iowa fans that have held on this long to listen to the old podcast, get a life? I don't know. I don't know what to say. I can't believe anybody would listen to us talk that long, but it's impressive if you have. Whoever
all
that
this
is.
all this nasal talking has got to be a little bit depressing to some of them.
Yeah, they watched the LinkedIn 30-second shorts.
And Brian, shout out to you for all that work you do with Iowa football graduates and everything, and the website that you do. That's a lot of work. I appreciate you doing all that.
Yeah, no problem. If you have any updates, let me know. I usually link to the profiles that I've made, and but yeah, I've got a bunch of old media guides I need to go through, and every time we interview someone, I'm scriffling through them and say, okay, there's their high school bio that they have, and throw in a couple stats here and there. But yeah, it's fun.
When are anybody making it back to any games? Nick, Brian?
We were
were
thinking about
debating
trying to
the
hit, was it
homecoming.
Indiana? I think if we got a kind of a big number of people to commit, maybe we could pull a bunch of guys in. I think it's one of those things we don't ever know who's coming or who's going to be there.
And then
we all could get together and do that.
Your cell phone coverage dies the second you're by the stadium that day.
Anywhere near.
Always
Yeah.
making it that much more difficult. Shout out to two of my other roommates that still live in town, Thad Sheldon and Greg McLaughlin,
Big.
the long snapper and
Former
kicker that have been around town. They're some of my best friends. It's just hard to get a hold of people on game day like that. But yeah, hopefully we can run into you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
let me
awesome.
know.
So, yeah, I'll let you guys know. We're trying to pull it off, so hopefully we can
Yeah.
pull some other guys back too. It might be fun. I think it'd be cool to meet some of those 1985 guys too, right?
Oh
You hear
yeah.
all these names, and you're like, that's why we're doing this too. Is we met like Brad Quast and some of these other guys. I'm like, oh man, I've heard these names.
Owen Gill,
Like
that was cool.
Owen Gill. That's cool
Yeah.
just to connect on that level. And
Coach
I
Long
played
was
with
my position coach.
That's
at
right.
Buch.
Elliot wasn't coaching. I was like, oh yeah, Chuck Long took over.
we still got to get him on. I think, yeah. Marv, I think, is coming up, so it should be fun.
Yep.
Marvelous is coming up.
Yeah, he was
Nice.
giving me shit. He's like, why haven't you called me so far? I was like,
What?
I'm trying to make sure it's good before we get some of these
Tell,
guys
tell him
on.
we had to get Doug Book on first before we could bring
Yeah,
him
right.
on.
Exactly.
Set that bar nice and low for Marvelous.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your nickname? Was it the Keystone
Top.
Top? Okay, got it. I was gonna say that when you said Keystone, I was like, that rang sort of a bell. I was like,
That's
oh,
funny that you say that. Coach Fry got up at the Benton Eye Club. I think it was in Belle Plaine, actually. And he was just sitting there. He goes, I always wanted to have a kid that come up through and was going to be in law enforcement. And I finally found one right here, my Keystone Cop. And everybody just died laughing and thought it was hilarious because he called me the Keystone Cop.
I think I was in my 30s until I got that reference, till I even understood what a Keystone Cop was. I think I stumbled upon it accidentally. That missed my era.
still don't know. Except for I just thought it was Keystone because he was from Keystone. Yeah.
No, it was like a TV show or something, wasn't
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
Keystone,
kind of
they were
show.
the Lauderdale or whatever. Funny guy.
So that was
Interesting. Good to know. Yeah, it went over my head too. Love it. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Yeah,
it so much.
thank you so much.
Glad
Thanks
we
a lot,
worked out
guys.
together.
Yeah, this was great.
That was a good time. I think people will love it.
let's get it. Go Hawks. Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Take
Go
care, man.
Hawks.
Cheers. Go Hawks.
Bye.